If a marriage is already rocky, do you think that sharing a through hike is more likely or less likely to help fix a relationship?
It sort of depends on the reason for the rockiness. I work with a lot of couples where there's rockiness in the relationship because they haven't been spending enough time together. And so if then the idea comes around about why don't we go spend 5 or 6 months together doing this really incredible thing, you could see why that would be a great thing for a relationship. On the other hand, if there are other reasons.
Welcome to Backpacker Radio, presented by The Trek, brought to you by LMNT. I'm your co-host, Zach Badger-Davis. Sitting to my right is...
I am Juliana Chaunce, a.k.a. Chaunce.
Reminders, yes. If you are anywhere near the state of Texas...
That one.
That state, please come to our live podcast. That is April 17th. It's going to be amazing in Austin at Soundspace at Captain Quack's. It's in the south side of the city. I don't know if we have to get that great.
I've never been to Austin.
Yeah, but like I said, Thursday, April 17th. Doors are at 5:30. Shows at 6. We have a super special, awesome guest who is still a mystery, but Chaunce has been pulling back the layers of the onion for us.
Oh yes, I had someone guess Cheryl Strayed the other day. It is not Cheryl Strayed.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool, but no, it's not. What will be the hint I give this time?
Someone sent an email recently. I don't think I shared this one. Requesting a group of people, and this was one person was in the group.
Okay.
That's a hint.
That is a hint. Let's leave it at that for now. It's not Cheryl Strayed, and it's a person in a group of people that has been requested.
Someone will actually be able to guess based on that
Yeah.
context clue.
Are you that person? I don't know.
Yeah. But yes, please head to the link in the show notes if you're interested in joining us for this very awesome live podcast. An announcement that we are no longer looking for a new social media person because...
Yes, we have. Well, we should announce this next time when she's here. But we found the perfect person, and they are local, and they're going to start coming to studio with us. And we are excited for all the avenues that will open and all the things that we can do with this new possibility of an in-person person.
Yeah.
And
I put it in here because I got an email recently. Somebody applied, and it reminded me that we didn't take it down.
Yeah. If you're listening to this, we have filled the position. We will tell you more about her next time because when she's here, I think that'll be more fun.
Totally. But yeah, no longer looking.
But yes, the local thing was really the biggie here because we got a lot of really good applicants that weren't local, but it just it's really hard. It's really hard to look at a non-local applicant when we've got someone that could come to studio. So that was really the ultimate factor there.
Yes. Lastly, but not leastly, if you're taking on a long-distance backpacking trek this year, head to the link in the show notes to apply to be a blogger for the trek. Jess, our community marketing manager, has been knocking it out of the park, wrangling all of our bloggers this year. Every time I talk to her, she's introducing a new thing. She just spurs it on me, like, hey, I did X, Y, and Z. Some of the recent things that she's done for our bloggers is she set up a mentorship program, and she showed me the elaborate spreadsheet of the 90 people who signed up for it and how she matched people. So that's happening. There's a massive group chat happening amongst people on Instagram. And she's broken it up by trail as well. And she recently did a webinar on how to navigate the platform. So she's basically making this the best that it could possibly be.
Hell yeah.
And she will finally be local out here by the end of this month. So hope to get her on the podcast very soon. And that's it for reminders. Let's get right to our interview today with none other than Mommy. We are joined by today's guest, Michele Weiner-Davis. MSW is an internationally renowned relationship expert, best-selling author, marriage therapist, and professional speaker who specializes in helping people change their lives and improve important relationships. Michele has been active in spearheading the new popular movement urging couples to make their marriages work and keep their families together. She's the author of 7 books and, most importantly, the mother to Zach Davis.
Although 8 books, thank you.
Rachel, you're fired. I'm guessing she got that from your Wikipedia page. And I learned today that your Wikipedia page is actually much lengthier than I would have guessed.
I'm very popular. I've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
One day we'll talk about it.
What's the thing professionally that you're most proud of?
I think really my real passion for helping couples make teetering on the brink relationships work. And I mean, I'm just really, I get paid well to do it, but it really is a labor of love. And I'm proud about the thousands of families I know I've impacted in my life. Yeah.
Okay, now a more self-serving answer, because you do that on a routine basis. What's the thing in your career that, like, if it was a metaphorical trophy case, the thing that you're most proud of?
Let's see.
Can you swing the mic a little bit closer?
I think maybe being part of a think tank with a group of people who developed a very, very different way of thinking about problem solving and therapy. I was part of a group of people who developed something called solution-focused therapy, and unlike what most people think about when they go to therapy, where they're going to analyze how they were raised and figure out how that was impacting who they are as adults. Not to say that's not important, but what I discovered in my work with clients very early on in my career was that you can help people gain all the insight in the world, and insight doesn't necessarily lead to change, it leads to insight. So initially I had the most insightful clients in northern Illinois, but they were clueless about what to do to really change their lives. And when I discovered that there was another way to help people make major changes in their lives, and then again help to develop that model, and it is a model that's practiced internationally, I feel really good about that.
Are people surprised when they come to you and they're not laying down on a couch talking about what their dad did to them when they were 6 years old or something like that?
It used to be more so that way, but now when people get to me, they've read a lot about my work, and they're there because they want solutions. They want to know why they're stuck and what they can do to get unstuck. And so there's less surprise about my different way of working with them.
And how does this skill as a relationship master work as a parent?
I don't know, you tell me.
Well, we'll get to that, but I'm curious to know from your perspective, like, what's the crossover between trying to be the person who saves marriages and the person who raises two children?
So, well, probably at the core of a solution-focused approach is, rather than getting caught up in this is the right way to do things or this is the wrong way to do things based on some theory, it's very pragmatically oriented. And so when you do something, when you intervene in some way, you look at the results that you get. And if you got the results that you want, it's the right way to do things. And if you didn't, you didn't. And so as a parent, I think I used to pay attention to the impact that I had on you guys. And if it was what I was hoping for, I knew I was using the right parenting method. It's the same sort of philosophy.
How is it being in a field like this in your marriage? Because I've heard things where, like, you think about dating a therapist, for example, and then you get in an argument with your partner and they're in therapy mode and you just want to be like, stop that, like just argue with me. Does it impact your relationship at all with your partner to have this kind of background when you guys get in disagreements?
Well, if he were here now and you asked him that question, he would say it makes no difference at all that I'm a therapist, because it's true that many times I can modify how I'm going to respond to something based on what I know would be the right way to do it. But I'm actually a person too. And so getting into those heated moments, it's easy to sort of let her rip and do whatever you feel like doing as opposed to what you know you should be doing.
Sure.
So it's, but I keep coming back to that place of relying on what I teach other people so that I walk the talk a lot of the time, just not all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, we have some fun questions here that I think are probably not appropriate for me to ask.
Oh, do you want me to start with it?
I feel like it makes more sense.
I thought we were going to save these for the end, but wow, I'm excited. The people want to know more about Zach, and he's very humble and won't talk about himself too much. but we know you will. So what is it like being mother to Zach Davis?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, I'm very biased. I adore him. I think he's incredible. I'm proud of him. I think one of the best parts of having him as my son is how he makes me laugh. And he's really, really funny, and he's really, he's pretty hilarious. And he's a great dad, and that's not an easy task because he's got 3 kids, 4 and under, a whole lot more than I think I could have handled. And I think one of the things that's incredibly special to me is when you opened by asking me what I'm proudest of, and I talked about my passion and that I actually get paid to do what I'm passionate about. I feel like Zach's really done the same thing, and that makes me really, really proud of him. I think he's a great husband and a great friend.
All right, we can stop this.
I just think he's great. I think he's great. He's not always nice to me, but I can handle that too.
Okay, that was a good warm up because we got all the nice stuff out of the way. Now, what's the dumbest thing you've ever witnessed him do?
Oh gosh.
I know it's probably hard to choose.
You can only pick one.
Just pick one?
You can only pick one.
I can only pick one. Dumbest thing he's ever done. Zach can have a temper, and there have been a couple times, like for example, we were in Keystone as a family playing golf, and
this one's bad.
I can't wait.
He went off to play golf with his dad, and we stayed home. And when you tee off, you have to tee off with more than 2 people. So I don't think there was another couple, but at least there was another woman who was part of.
Yeah, usually you're in a foursome, but
okay,
this
time
case
it
was just 3
threesome,
people.
That's what I thought. And maybe, I don't know, 45 minutes passed, which was not enough time to play the whole game. And Zach comes in and he's fuming. And I said,
the house that we were renting was like on the golf course.
Yeah. I said, Zach, what happened? What's the matter? Well, apparently he wasn't playing well enough to his liking, and he threw his golf clubs, and he came in and he said, I'm quitting playing golf, and Dad's playing golf with another woman.
You little shit.
Yeah. Threw him under the bus.
That's just one
You left out the part where I actually cut up my golf club. I was so pissed.
Cut it up?
I came back, grabbed scissors, and literally started cutting it up.
Aren't they metal?
No, the glove.
Oh,
yeah.
the glove.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the club.
No.
Well, and I know you told me I could only do one, but I do have another one
right.
handy.
Yes.
The time we were in Hawaii, and we were lying by the pool, and I don't remember what you got pissed off about, but you were really upset about something, and you took your, I don't know, was it a Walkman or something like that, and he just threw it in the pool. Just threw it in the pool. And as his sister would say, and then poor little Zach, Mom felt sorry for him and went out and got him another one right away.
Yeah. So this explains a lot about me as a person.
Yeah.
We've had to undo a lot of these changes over time.
How old was he for the golf instance?
15 or so, would you say?
Yeah, probably
I don't know,
early
it's
high school.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I'm picturing you like this age cutting up a golf glove.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Okay. And then the
I will
Walkman.
say, at least from my perspective, since the AT, I feel like I've gotten my temper way better in check. Like, I haven't had those blow-ups that I can remember. I think the AT gave me that.
That's great. And also, I
That's
do,
great.
I do notice that you will apologize, which is a nice characteristic.
Interesting. Okay. And you mentioned that his sister refers to him as the feral child.
I did.
Because I thought when you said that he never got grounded, that it meant that he was really, really good, which is hard to look at Zach and truly believe. He must have gotten into mischief, and the feral child part checks out. So,
Yeah, I think...
talk more to that.
Well, I think, okay, so he and his sister are 5.5 years apart, And when she was younger, she struggled in school, and we really sat on her to, be diligent and be disciplined and so forth. And then we were so amazed that we then had this other child who ran on his own batteries. We didn't have to do any of that. And he either studied or didn't study, but he always got A's. And so we sort of felt like we could relax. And he was our youngest, and he got away with a lot, And so when you asked if he got grounded, I don't even know if I could ever.
I don't think I was ever grounded.
I actually think of one incident. You were, I don't know, maybe about 8 or 9, and I took you to, what was the name of that video store that used to have video games? That's no longer.
It was a local. You're talking about Blockbuster.
Blockbuster.
We would go to Video Gallery, but
yeah.
There.
And so I took him in there, and I helped him. I didn't help him. He picked out a video game he wanted to play, and then he told me he wanted 2 or 3, and I said, well, today we're just doing 1. He said, no, I want 2, and I said, well, we're not doing 2 today, Zach, which was unlike me. Usually I just go with the flow. And he literally threw himself down on the floor and started throwing a fit. And I said, uncharacteristically, that's it? You're not getting any? And I put the 1 back and took him back into, I was driving a truck at the time, because I remember this little, the passenger side, not a lot of room in the front. He was flailing around. He just couldn't believe that I actually said no to something. And that was sort of the last time he ever did that. So I guess maybe I should have done more disciplinating of you.
Yeah, there was no discipline ever.
That was the
definitely
one time.
describes a lot of why I am the way that I am.
Wow. Okay. 2 more questions. 1, what is something about Zach that you don't think the listeners would know? Because we've done this for 8 years, so they know a lot about a lot, but what's something they might not know?
You don't have to pretend like you listen to the podcast.
No.
Yeah,
no.
Assume that they know all the surface level stuff.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what they might not know. He's very sentimental. Huh. Do they know that?
I don't think so.
Is that true?
Oh, you should have. I have a collection of the sweetest notes that he wrote to me while he was on the AT.
Really?
I do.
What kind of stuff would they say?
Just passed by. He's going to get embarrassed.
I don't remember this.
Just passed by some purple flowers on the trail, and I remember how much you love purple flowers. It's your favorite color.
Zach, you softy. You're writing these letters in shelter at night?
Right. So.
Cute.
Let the record show I'm not turning red.
Oh, no, he's turning red. Check us out on YouTube.
Sweet.
Okay, to transition from Zach's personal life into the broader relationship stuff, I think one that's really good to separate or to connect both is, what was your advice that you gave Zach when he was engaged to Jenna and was about to take off for the PCT? Because that was 2017. They had just gotten engaged. He was about to leave for several months. Coming from the background you come from, was there specific advice or tips you gave him for how to make sure he didn't F it up while he was out there?
I think that when Zach got, by the time Zach got engaged, I resigned from the position of telling him what to do, or even.
Yeah, I don't think I ever came to you for any guidance on any of that.
No, but I really was thinking about the difference between your being on the AT and your being on the PCT. With Jenna in your life, and I was always in touch with Jenna, so I knew how you were really great about staying in touch with her. You did this very long trail in half the time. You were open to her meeting up with you, and she met you, I think, for sure a couple of times while you were on the trail. I think, and also I remember that she wanted you to carry some sort of a satellite phone or something like that.
Yeah, a spot device.
And right, and I know how you don't like that sort of thing, but you did compromise, and I think you did your best to do what you wanted to do, but also to take her feelings into consideration.
Yeah. If I could just go back in time, it's so much easier when you're just engaged with no kids. So lesson learned for you, Chaunce. it gets harder. It gets way harder.
Yeah. Well, Garrett's given me the green light to go do trails.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I wish I didn't like my job.
Yeah.
That's the problem now, is that I actually like my job. It was so much easier to quit and go do that stuff when you hated your job.
We obviously want to talk a ton about relationship stuff, but I think it's definitely relevant to learn about how you got into this in the first place, because you didn't do this because you want to become a famous author and hope. Well, I guess I don't want to speak for you, but give us the origin story.
So I grew up in what I kind of jokingly refer to as the East Coast version of the Walton family, very close-knit family, always with my immediate family, my extended family, and I'll never be that person lying on a therapist's couch, telling stories about how unhappy I was as a kid, because I had a great childhood. My parents never fought, and then I was 16 years old, just about to leave home, graduating from high school, going off into college. So I was, leaving my nest. And my mom called my two brothers and me and my dad in for a family meeting, which was not the norm in my family. So I suspected something was up. And she proceeded to tell us, and again, keep in mind my parents never, ever fought. She proceeded to tell us that for 23 years of marriage, she's been really unhappy, and that she is calling for this family meeting because she's telling us that she wants a divorce. And it's one thing if kids watch their parents fight a lot, especially if those are violent and really horrible sorts of fights, but nothing like that ever happened. So it was incredibly shocking and incredibly devastating, and especially when I was just leaving home. My nest was falling apart. And I knew that my parents' marriage would end as a result of that. What I didn't know, because I was only 16 years old at the time, was that my entire extended family would sort of disappear, because my mother had been the hub of the family wheel, and when she decided to get a divorce, she ended that position in the family. So things changed dramatically, and I moved on to college, and I don't necessarily think that I consider myself damaged goods, but what I did do is shortly after I began my career, I decided that I wanted to spend probably the rest of my life helping people avoid a similar fate, and that's what I've been doing.
That must have been like a big shock to have not only the combination of getting notified of the divorce and the family kind of sparse out, but that's also when you're leaving to go to college.
Absolutely.
Too. That's a lot of change at once.
Absolutely.
Wow. How did you process that in a way where it didn't just fuck you up?
Well, you have an assumption there, right?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
All right. I just I focused on school. I focused on what I wanted to turn my life into. I've always had a lot of really good friends, and found a boyfriend. I tried to focus on moving myself forward. But it's the sort of thing where it has an impact that's lifelong. It's lifelong, for sure.
Do you think it would have been less of a blow had they argued a bit first? This is a backwards question, but if you're headed towards divorce, is it better to openly argue a bit in front of your kids?
Well, here's what's better. It's openly, well, not necessarily if you're headed for divorce, but it's a real gift to kids to see their parents have disagreements, arguments, and to be able to, in a constructive way, find resolution, because the truth is, and I'm sure it's about what we're going to talk about, all relationships have conflict, and if you don't model how to have constructive conflict, constructive conversations, kids never learn it, and it really is a gift for kids to see you argue and then resolve it. Whether you decide to divorce or not, it's a separate issue, but yeah, that it is helpful. I mean, growing up without seeing conflict, I think gave me the wrong idea about relationships.
In addition to your style of therapy in terms of being solution focused, what other ways would you say that your angle is different compared to like the average marriage therapist?
Or average therapist,
Sure.
perhaps, yeah. So I have this inherent belief that people have skills and strengths and resources and resilience. And when they come to me and they're feeling down, of course we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the feelings that they have about that. But I am, in the spirit of being a solution detective, I want to know about their problem-solving skills. I want to know about times when they're handling things well, even in the midst of all of that. I want to know about times they've had in the past that have been really, really, really difficult, but somehow they've managed to pull themselves up. Because what you focus on expands. If you focus on people's dysfunction and their disabilities and their difficult times, that's the picture that emerges. And when you help people to see that that doesn't define who they are, but rather these, what I call exceptions, the things they're doing well, it's, it's inspiring, but it also gives a formula for what they need to do to get things back on track.
Given your origin story and your profession, you obviously have the bias that, marriages should be saved. Professionally, that's your opinion. Personally, do you think that's always the case? Like, do you ever work with couples where you think like they would be better off getting divorced, or whether it's couples or friends or just people that you cross in the wild?
So, by the way, as good as I am at what I do, and I'm actually pretty good at it. I've been at it for decades. Most people do actually leave. The other thing I do differently, which I should say, is that I don't do hourly sessions like most therapists do, and there are lots of reasons for that. I work with people 2 days at a time, and so they fly in from all over to work with me to do these intensives. And the vast majority of people that I work with, whose marriages really are often teetering on the brink of divorce, leave with a renewed sense that they want to work on their relationship. But that doesn't include everybody. Sometimes people decide it's too little, too late. But there's the operative word. Sometimes people decide, not me. I'm never the one to say, you've worked on this long enough, or don't you see that this isn't a healthy relationship? I don't think that's a therapist's job. Unfortunately, many of my colleagues disagree with that, and many of my colleagues make suggestions for people to get out of their relationships. And we're not talking about where there's physical abuse. I mean, this is a separate issue. We're talking about the garden variety problems that most people have when they consider breaking up their marriages. So it isn't my position to tell people that. If they get to that place themselves, I can help them to figure out ways to split amicably. My job is to be the holder of hope and to continually think about things they haven't tried that might make a difference. And if at the end of that process, one person feels absolutely certain they're not going to get there, well, then so be it. But that is not my place to tell them that that's where they're headed.
In your opinion, is there one thing or maybe a couple of things where relationships in general go wrong? Like, if you're working with somebody over 2 days, like in most instances, you're starting at point A to get to the solution the fastest?
There certainly are certain patterns that I've seen over the course of the decades that I've been doing this that have become very familiar to me, and I'll give you one such example. So usually when people meet and they begin a relationship, they're focusing on everything they have in common. And in fact, most people will say, oh, I just met so-and-so, and he likes to do this, or she likes to do this. I can't believe how much we have in common. That's what shows up early on in the relationship. But even if you have all those things in common, I will promise you one thing, you will start to notice that there are differences as well. And very often, people don't know how to deal with differences. It's so fascinating to me. The research shows that people who are in long-term happy marriages are no more similar to one another than people who divorce. But there's one thing that is different about people who divorce. One thing that's different about people who make it over the long haul and they're happy. They learn how to deal with their differences. And so what typically happens in these relationships when the differences show up and someone becomes unhappy, and they'll tell their partner they want them to change or they want them to do things differently, and perhaps their partner doesn't respond well and doesn't do what's being asked. The person who's asking for a change might do it once or twice more, but typically they begin to tell themselves, this isn't going anywhere, this isn't working, my partner isn't listening to me, and they shut down. They don't necessarily leave the marriage at that point. People have different plans in their heads. I'll leave when the oldest, goes off to college, like my mother. Or I'll leave when I get a new boyfriend, or I'll leave when I get a new job so that I'm in a better financial position. And during that interim, while they're implementing this plan, they stop complaining. Well, guess what the other person thinks when they stop complaining?
Things are
cool,
better.
Everything is better. That's right. And so then D-Day comes, and the person says, I want a divorce, and the other person is shell-shocked, broadsided. I cannot believe you want a divorce. Why? How come you didn't tell me? And of course, that person feels they've tried everything. They've told him 1,000,000 times. But the truth is that isn't necessarily the case. And so, and they'll also say, my spouse or my partner doesn't care about my feelings. It really is that the things that were important to them, they didn't find different creative ways to get through to them and to really stand their ground, because typically the things that people want and need are legitimate. They're valid. But they need additional tools in their toolbox to get through to people who aren't hearing it the first, second, or third time.
Yeah, I think when we bring the conversation more focused into the hiking aspect of things, I think there's 3 types of personalities to think about when you think about a relationship on a long distance trail. There's either going to be the couple that's hiking together, which would be one set of, I guess, guidance or guidelines you would give to how to make that work in those close proximity settings for 2 people doing the whole thing together. But then the other 2 you would get is when one person's hiking and one person's at home. How does the person hiking take steps to make sure that that relationship stays strong, and how does the person at home take steps? So it's, both people on trail, one person at home, or one person on trail. And I guess that for the 2 that are separate, that would have maybe a lot of similarities with dealing with people who are in relationships that aren't in the same location. A long distance relationship could be a long distance relationship whether you're on trail or you're working in a different country or you're deployed or whatever it might be. How do you approach those kind of different environments that the couples you're working with come from?
Well, first I'd like to, so I want to make sure I'm clear about the different categories you're talking about. 2 people hiking it together, one person hiking it and one at home. And then what was the third one you said?
Just the flipped. The person, from the perspective of the person hiking it versus from the perspective of the person at home.
Okay, so,
I would think the person hiking on trail, there's a lot of things that they could do to make the person at home feel valued. And there's also a lot of things that are probably different things that the person at home could do to make the person on trail feel valued, so that they don't grow apart while they're doing something like that.
Well, let's start there, okay? And I think one of the things I like about myself, I know what I know and I know what I don't know. So I've never hiked a long distance trail, and I've never actually coached people who are doing it because they're having relationship issues. But what I do know, and Zach may not like this analogy, but I think Zach and I are pretty close, and I know that I'm I think I'm better too, Actually, I think your hiking the Appalachian Trail made me better, but
It fixed both of us.
It does. You know, being overprotective and over-involved in some ways, having that, it's not a partner, but it's a parent-kid relationship. I'm sure I had many of the same feelings of, you know, are you going to stay in touch with me? Or sometimes being overly cautious, but also, well, I'll get into it in any case. So for the couple where one's on the trail and one's at home, I think like anything else in life and in relationships, one of the most important things is to have clear conversations about expectations. And that begins even before you get on the trail. If the person hiking wants buy-in from the person who's going to be at home, it has to feel as if it's a unanimous decision. If it's a win-lose, it's a lose-lose. And so being able to talk about it as soon as you are beginning to think about hiking the trail, expressing not just that you're going to be hiking on the trail, but really talking about the deeper feelings about why this is important to you, like why you feel this is will be life-changing for you, so that the other person, if there's any reticence, will have more empathy, because it's not just being made as an announcement, this is something that I'm doing, but an explanation of why it's important. I think a lot of people, when there's a difference in how people feel about something that's about to be done, don't really take the time to explain why it's so important. So I think that is one conversation. Also having conversations about what the expectations are in terms of, you know, staying in touch. I know just in terms of, you know, with Zach being on the Appalachian Trail, and I have to admit, and it was probably because Zach was working for me prior to going on the trail, and he was doing my social media, and he was like, I don't think I can handle one more hour in front of this screen, and I don't think I can handle one more hour with my mother. And so he when offered by a friend to go with him on the trail, I could see why he swiftly made the decision to do that. I was terrified. I mean, I was truly hoping it was a joke. But when I started to hear that he was like announcing it on Facebook and telling his friends, and actually had told a friend of mine that he was doing it, I had to face the fact this was actually really going to happen.
Who did I tell?
You told Sharon.
Oh.
Yeah, and so she told me, and I thought, uh-oh, this sounds real, you know. And so I think not everybody's like me. I mean, I admit that I had anxiety about it, but I do think I'm not the only person in the world, that there probably are partners who feel anxious just about the danger or the risks involved. And then there are people on the other end of the spectrum that is not a concern. Maybe there are people at home who have, you know, there are different ways people feel loved. Maybe there are people at home who feel like time together is the most important thing, and someone wanting to do something that will take away time from the relationship feels like a betrayal in some ways. And so much depends on the personalities. If you have someone who's incredibly independent at home, and the other person announces they're going to do a through hike, they go, yes, you know, because this will give me an opportunity to do things and not have to worry about, you know, what you're doing. So it totally depends on the personalities of the people involved. But the most important thing, you know, even just prior to getting on the trail, is having clear, concise conversations about expectations. Because if someone really wants to stay in touch, I do know there are ways to do that. So that's, you know, prior to leaving, which I think sets the tone for things to come.
Can I interject real quickly?
Yeah.
I'm curious to get Chaunce's perspective. How did your parents react when you told them that you were hiking the PCT?
So stupid. I sent them a map of the PCT. I had called them to ask them to open it when I was on the phone so that I could be there when they saw it. And so my dad pauses the Syracuse basketball game that was on at the time, goes into the office, they open it, and they're just kind of both looking at it. And my mom was like, "Oh, this is the thing you did last year, right?" I was like, "No, last year I worked at a summer camp." And she said, "Okay." And I was like waiting for it to be a conversation, and my dad asked if he could go back to watching basketball. So that was it.
Seriously?
Yeah, that was it.
So over the people who've been listening for a long time, they probably noticed a trend in like when people were taking on really risky adventures. I always ask the question of like how their parents responded to it. Now you're getting some background as to the environment that I was cooked in. Because, So yeah, how did you react when I was out on the trail? Like walk us through some like a specific scenario of you following my hike.
So, but this particular memory that just, flashed in my mind was
I was 26 years old, by the way. Go ahead.
Well, this one was on the PCT because I guess I was able to track where you were precisely, and every time the dot went off the trail, I got nervous, and I finally had to convince myself. First of all, it may be wrong. Secondly, maybe you set up a tent that was like 3 feet away from the trail. There are extremes,
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I did on the AT or for the AT. First of all, you hiked with a guy named John. Is that
Yeah.
So I got John's mother's cell phone number and put it on speed dial, and then we had this agreement that anytime either one of us heard from either one of our sons, we would like connect with each other, and that was comforting. As soon as I got the sense that he could be in touch and he would be within cell range, occasionally. It really did calm me down. I thought it was going to be okay.
I think for the entire hike, every time I called either of my parents, I got an answer on the first ring, like every single time. Didn't matter what you were doing, if you were asleep or at work, like you had the phone.
That's true. But now, and here comes the personal thing. Maybe you'll edit out, but you weren't feeling well for a lot of that hike.
It's well documented in my book, Appalachian
Even
Trials,
the
available
mix?
on Amazon.
No,
West Nile virus.
He was
yeah.
really sick.
Yeah.
And if you're close to your kid, you can tell. The kid doesn't even need to tell you that something is not right.
So would you say you were pretty laid back before I got West Nile virus?
Totally laid back. No, but it adds insult to injury. I mean, to think your kid is not feeling well, and so yes, I was waiting for the calls. In fact, if you were within cell range, and I was actually even in the middle of doing a session, I remembered there were times where I said, "Excuse me."
Yeah, like I said, one ring.
How long for the AT was it before you kind of got comfortable with the idea of, okay, I can breathe a little bit. This is kind of like the same rinse and repeat every time. He's going into town, he's getting food, he's walking, he's going into town, he's getting food. Like, how long did it take for you to adjust?
We'll do it like on a 1 to 10 scale. If like 1 is where I started, I was probably at a 3 pretty quickly.
Okay.
Because I realized, first of all, the AT as opposed to the PCT, the towns seemed closer together, so there were more opportunities to connect. Plus, I got the sense that there were a lot of people on the AT, and that he was often, not always, but often with people, and that gave me a sense of serenity. And so I started to talk to myself about it, and I felt like actually it was probably going to be okay. Probably about halfway through, I was okay. I wasn't great. I was really happy when he was done, but yeah, I was way better.
Yeah. Going back
to the couples.
Back to the couples. I've got so many different questions.
Yeah.
Talking about the two, I think let's focus on the two separate ones first, the one who's on trail and the one who's at home. Another thing that can cause contention is the person at home, not even like if they are just worried for the person or scared for them, how would you handle a scenario where the person at home is jealous? You know, like, I'm going to hike the trail, you're at home, you kind of feel like I'm going on vacation while you're staying at work, or maybe you've got a couple of kids that you've got to watch while I'm gone, or you've got to take care of the house and the yard, and you're stuck with all these tasks and no help, and I'm out there, you know, living the dream. How do you keep that from driving a wedge?
I think having kids is a whole separate category. I mean, if someone is on the trail and their kids at home, that's a real gift. I mean, it truly is a real gift. I think
to get away from their kids.
Yeah,
you
right.
tell us.
You're right. Yeah, no, that too. I think there are a few things. One, if there are logistical things like additional child care or getting a person to help with housework or logistical things that you can afford and that makes it a bit easier, then you should certainly explore pragmatic sorts of solutions. But and you said something about this, Chaunce, and this is really super, super important. The expression of appreciation for the gift that they're actually getting, I think it's humongous. I really do. Even if the person on the trail thinks, well, I should be able to do this. This is my life. You know, this is my hike. I should be. Even if you should be able to do this, it's still important to acknowledge that your partner is picking up the slack so that you can do your dream. I think it makes all the difference in the world. I think a lot of times people get more resentful or jealous or whatever when they feel like they're just being taken for granted.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you mentioned something too just then, which was, you know, the mindset of I'm my own person. I can go do this. I think when people are in a relationship for so much time, as more time becomes more time, you start to feel like you're one person or the other person is an extension of you. How do you guide people to go from that mindset of I can't do anything without you, you know, like you're my other half, to we are both individual people with individual needs, if they have gotten too much in that mindset first?
Well, I think relationships go through stages, and in the beginning, people become oftentimes, not everybody, but oftentimes like super glued to each other. They're doing everything together. It's so much fun. And then typically what happens, and this is usually a turning point in relationships, one person has the need to do more independent stuff. And depending on, again, the personality of the other person, that's either like, I'm glad this happened because I'm ready to do that too, or does this mean you don't love me anymore? I am of the strong belief that although there's a great deal of variation in how much together time people need, that relationships are the one place where one half and one half does not equal a whole. That you really have to feel good about yourself, your life, the things that you do, in order to bring those things back to the relationship. And so often I help people to focus on what needs to change in their lives so that they're not putting all of their emotional eggs in one basket, meaning their partner.
How do you kindly tell someone, like, get a hobby? for the person that is struggling with that, how are you kindly like, hey, you need your own stuff?
Are you referring to like someone being on the trail and the other person feeling like longing and feeling like...
Yeah, just like not okay with it. Like, I can't do 6 months without you. I can't make that work. Like, you can't, like, how do I live without you here? I can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, how do you encourage the independence from that person?
So I think the way that you, and I know you're just giving me a quick example, right? But, I think relationships are challenging because it's never about all one person or all the other person has to be a compromise. If you happen to be married to or engaged to or hooked up with a person who has a togetherness need that is bigger than yours, you have to find a way to meet in the middle. Does that person need to get a life and, find things that really make them feel whole without the other person? Yes. But does that also mean perhaps that the person who is looking for adventure and independence has to maybe dull it down a bit to compromise if you want the relationship to work, if that's a priority?
That makes sense.
So I think we're going through the various scenarios of someone's hiking, the other person's at home, one person's at home, the other person's hiking, or someone's hiking together. I think we have a lot of these scenarios covered in the form of questions that we got via Instagram. So let's just dive into some of these. It might be a little bit redundant with what was just said, but we'll find out. This one's from Robin. She says, I love hiking. Oh, he says, I love, or maybe she says, I won't assume gender.
Yeah,
I love hiking, but my wife doesn't. She's short, under 5 feet, so how big a backpack would I need to carry her in? Seriously, she hates camping, and nothing I've tried works. We've been married for almost 30 years. Any suggestions?
Yeah. Okay, wait. He's married for almost 30 years, and everything he's tried hasn't worked, and he's still writing in, wondering what he could do to get her to go, and I think he needs to stay after class. I mean, he's obviously, she doesn't want to do it, and I think a really big piece of making relationships work is acceptance. Accept the person you're married to for who they are, and figure out ways to just allow it to be the way that it is. She's not going to go. Robin, whoever you are, she's not going to go.
Love it.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Obviously, we gave people the option to submit these questions anonymously, as this next person did. If a marriage is already rocky, do you think that sharing a through hike is more likely or less likely to help fix a relationship?
So I think, I give that some thought. It sort of depends on the reason for the rockiness. I work with a lot of couples where there's rockiness in the relationship because they haven't been spending enough time together. Everything else is a priority, whether it's work or friends or kids or whatever it might be. They're just not prioritizing the relationship. And so if then the idea comes around about why don't we go spend 5 or 6 months together doing this really incredible thing, you could see why that would be a great thing for a relationship. Even the good times, that's a no-brainer, and even the bad times, to do it together, to be a team, could really strengthen the connection. On the other hand, if there are other reasons, just people fighting a lot, people having real different views and opinions about things, and they're on each other's nerves, I think it's super important to perhaps get some help before you go. Because what I imagine would happen, I mean, again, I haven't been on the trail. I've just, I've read your book, and I know a little bit about it. But there's so many points where things are stressful and challenging, where you want to kind of give up. And if you're with someone with whom there are unresolved issues and you feel resentment, I can't imagine how you guys do it when things are going well, let alone when you're having someone who you feel is extra baggage. So I don't think going on the trail when things are really, really bad is a great idea unless you sort of get to the bottom of what's been going on.
Yeah. Reminds me of Ian's interviews. We interviewed another fellow. You remember Ian is in the book?
Yeah.
He was the guy who helped me with all the gear. We interviewed him when we were out in New York recently. And he got dumped not once, but twice during through hikes. Different ladies on different through hikes.
Dumped why?
I think the first one was he was a little too attached.
No.
Do you remember the exact particulars?
No, I just remember that he was on Hope Pass.
Yeah. And the second one, he got dumped over InReach, like a satellite communicator. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Not good.
Okay, this next one's anonymous as well. If one person in a relationship goes on a through hike and leaves their partner at home, we did this one. What recommendation do you have for them to stay connected while apart for so long? Do you have anything else to add there from what we've already touched on?
Not really. I think if I guess the only thing that I know someone who did this on the trail. If hiking segments of it together is a possibility, and sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't, that's a great way to stay connected. Yeah.
This is from Horizon. It says, so I'm single, and not only am I getting into long-distance backpacking, but I also work in film, where we could be hired for a project that has us traveling for months at a time within a week of being hired. I often find myself hesitant to get into a relationship with someone who has a more stable 9-to-5 lifestyle. How can I approach the initial conversation to set expectations of these long gaps in availability? Should I just stick to dating people in my industry or people with less traditional lifestyles? Thanks.
So for many years, I had a lot of appearances on television, and I got to know a lot of the young producers on the show, and I just could not really believe the hours that they were keeping. They worked all the time, and I used to jokingly say to them, "I bet you don't have a relationship," and they would all say, "No, there's no time." So there are certain careers where you're sort of married to your career, and you have a few options with that. One is to say that it's great to hook up with somebody who shares your career or something comparable, or someone who isn't put off by having time apart. But the bottom line, again, I know that I'm going to sound like a broken record when it comes to this. I like that this guy starts off by asking, about the importance of talking about his expectations and about his plans to be away. I think if more people really were clear and concrete about what they envision happening in their lives and really could talk about it, then you make a decision to either be in it or to be out of it. It's when people, if you have a void, people fill the void with their own narratives, and it doesn't work out so well. So either, yes, hook up with somebody in your field, or make sure you're really clear about what you want, and make sure the person's okay with that.
I have an oddball question, but this is something that I see quite a bit, is from a parent perspective, how would you advise the child to get their parents' sign off for a through hike? Typically the scenario is where I think there's more hesitance, not to stereotype, but this is where I see it more often, is a solo female hiker wanting to go on, do the AT, PCT, whatever it might be, and they're not always able to get their parents' blessing. Not that you need it at a certain point, but they would rather have it than not have it, obviously. Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice for that hiker?
Well, I think it goes back to what I was saying before. I can just speak for myself. I'm much more likely to be empathetic when I really, on a deep level, understand why something's important to other people. To hear that somebody's doing something and that it's a done deal and I don't like it would probably make me that much more defensive. And clearly, some parents are more open to that kind of conversation than others. I know, for example, when you decided you were going to do the Appalachian Trail, and I told my father, who was a very, very risk-averse person, he was beside himself. And I don't know, I think he probably thought that you lost your mind, because he would never intentionally have placed himself in what he considered to be a risky situation. That's just not who my dad was. So if that happens to be your parent, the likelihood of getting any buy-in is not great. And then ultimately you have to decide, is this important enough to do something where your parents are going to be disappointed. I always hold out hope that over time, like me, you kind of you get with the program. Sometimes it is a matter of being able to show your parent that you can handle it and you're not going to die and you're gonna make it through. I guess speaking from the heart has, in my mind, the best chance of someone being receptive to the idea. I don't know. Any other thoughts?
A part of what I noticed when I was researching for my book was what you're saying, absolutely, when you say, like, understanding the why is so important, but also I think knowledge is helpful too. Like, I think especially when thinking about why parents get scared, and same reason with why partners get scared, if they don't understand what it entails, like, where are you going to sleep, what are you going to eat, like, what do you mean you're going to be in the woods for 6 months? That's really scary because there's so many unknowns. And I think demystifying some of the unknowns and being like, hey, let's sit down and break down how this works.
Yeah.
You know, like, this is how I'm going to get from place to place. This is where I'm going to resupply. This is where I sleep. This is how I get water. And making it so that there's less unknowns and less mystery adds comfort.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And in addition, not only does the information add comfort, the fact that one would appear as you're on top of this, because you know all of this, is also, I'm sure, very comforting to parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add there. I've actually heard from contributors of ours that they were able to get either like parent or spouse buy-in by sharing other Trek bloggers' blogs, just like giving them a visual and a description of their day-to-day, removes some of like the wild perception of what they're doing. And like you see there's a crowd of 15 people at a campsite, makes it seem
that
little
certainly
more
helped me when I realized that there were other people on this trail and people that I knew that you hooked up with, and then maybe you weren't with them, and then you hooked up and there was like
people.
Yeah, right.
That was one thing that's one thing that I noticed on my hike too, because I post videos, because I'm like, I could send my parents a link, they can see I'm physically alive.
Yeah.
That will keep them calm, you know, because I had instances when I did the John Muir Trail, we didn't have reception because it was during COVID, so it was, you know, we were picking up a resupply in the middle that we had cached with a friend and not doing any town stuff, so they were big stretches. And for the second stretch, I remember I had told my mom, you're not going to hear from me for 11 days. And it was I said 12 days. It was an 11-day stretch. And I said, you're not going to hear from me for 12 days. I gave an extra day just in case. Do not panic during those 12 days. On the 13th day, you can panic.
That's great.
No, it's not, because on the 11th day, I got to the top of Whitney and checked my phone, and she started panicking day 9. She called Zach. I'm like, Mom, why would Zach, of all people, know where I am? You know, like, what?
I do think I was able to talk her off the ledge a little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for that. But I post the videos because I'm like, if she can see, and my videos are on a stagger, so even if I go into these stretches without reception on a longer trail, I've got backlogged videos that you won't even know. And then when something goes bad and you call me freaking out, I'm like, Mom, that was 2 weeks ago, right? But I noticed on the AT that I had parents that were following my videos because their son or daughter was either 200 miles up the trail or 200 miles back. Not even in the videos, but just, if I know what you're doing, I know what they'll be getting to next. Or if I know what you're doing, I know what they just told me they did. And like seeing it, even if it wasn't their kid, was just such a relief for them, which was really...
Yes. Having a vision of what actually happens there is super helpful. Super. And I just thought of something else that was helpful that may not always apply to everybody, but Zach also has a dad. And
fun fact.
And he was very much on top of knowing where Zach was at any given point on the trail as well. And if you were here now, what he has this mantra that he'd be saying, you know, I could have gotten to Zach in 24 hours if I needed to at any point in the trail. So, but knowing that it wasn't just me, you know, the lone soldier, you know, tracking Zach, that it was nice to have a team at home too.
Better to panic together than alone.
Exactly. Misery loves company.
All right, got another internet question. This one's from Stacy. My partner supported me initially with my desire to do multi-day backpacking trips. However, he's now made comments about how he hopes I'm not planning to make this a regular thing. I've gone away twice for 2.5 weeks. I realize it's a lot to ask when you are a parent, even though our kids are teens, but I do want to be able to continue to enjoy these trips. He's not interested. How do you approach the situation to avoid resentment building on both sides?
You know, I now I'm going to be repeating myself, but I don't care whether the kids are 18 or if they're 7. You know, leaving your partner at home with the primary responsibility for everybody's well-being, it's a gift. And 2.5 weeks isn't 6 months, but it's a long period of time to be the sole parent at home. And I think, again, part of this, it just always goes back to having an open conversation about, look, I heard you mumble, you know, that you don't want me to be doing this all that often. And I have this feeling like I want to do this more than I have been doing. I guess we need to find out what could I do that maybe you wouldn't be 100% comfortable with in terms of the frequency and the length of these trips? And conversely, how do I need to cut back so that you aren't feeling like you're left here dealing with this alone? It truly is a situation where you have to take both people's feelings into account, especially, I think, when you have a family.
I think you're also a good candidate to answer this, because whenever we go do a backpacker radio trip, you do need to get the sign off from Jenna.
Yeah.
And the answer can't just be blame it on work. I know that's usually the default, but I know there's times where you've mentioned like you've gone and done something and then Jenna gets a trip, or there's been times you've made arrangements like that. So how do you get the green light?
Yeah, it's not easy, and it being part of my profession definitely is an asset, because if I were doing these as often as for just fun, it would be a much tougher
I don't
sell.
know, did you notice the smile on his face as he said that?
I mean,
Jenna, don't listen.
Yeah, you pointed out that I'm fortunate I get to do what I'm passionate about, but
yeah,
still pays the bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's got to be a give and take. There's got to be, if I get the thing that makes me tick, whether it's time or whatever the thing is that makes you tick, how can I enable you to go achieve that? I think that's a huge part of it for sure.
And I can weigh in on that one, because as much as I love Zach, I also love Jenna. And I think they're great at really allotting time for each of them to do what they need to do to fill their souls. And it's also great that, Zach is with Jenna, because Jenna's a pretty independent person. I don't know how, a person could handle having 3 little kids at home and feeling okay about that if she weren't the way she is.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that's like tangent. This is one thing that changed about the trips that we go on for the podcast is Zach is like in bed with a Benadryl at 7 p.m. now, because he's like, this is my time to catch up on sleep.
Yeah, that when we went to Trail Days 2023,
yeah.
That was like a month after the twins were born. And I think the only reason I could work it was either Jenna's mom or sister was in town. So we had like around the clock help. And then obviously you guys were there. But yeah, no, for me that was like coming up for oxygen, just trying to get more than 3 consecutive hours of sleep.
Yeah, that was awful.
That was the highlight of the trip for me. I was delusional at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
This next one is from Garbage Woman. Do couples who make it through a thru-hike together really stay together? Which I guess means like if you've done the whole trail together, is that the check mark of this will last?
Let me translate this one a little bit, because my mom's not a backpacker, and you probably haven't counseled too many thru-hikers, as there's not many of us, and I doubt many could afford you. But let's say that, do you think that couples have gone through like shared challenging experiences together? Is that a benefit to their relationship?
That's a great question. So when I work with couples, I don't do a history of what it was like growing up, but I do a history of their relationship. And I really ask for, even starting with when they met each other, and of course everything is usually pretty great back then. But inevitably, within a relatively short period of time, they encounter some challenge. And I know much less about who they are and what's happened just by hearing the nature of the challenge than I do the meaning they've ascribed to the challenge. In other words, how they've worked through that. For some people, I'll give you an example. Lots of people have difficulty getting pregnant, and it's really, really hard on a relationship when that happens. And some people, when they finally have been working at it, and then they finally get pregnant, that there's a miscarriage, there's some people that it pulls them closer, because they're both so sad. They're grieving together. It's really hard, and they are closer than ever. They really are. And then there are other people who have told me that actually, even though it happened maybe 15, 20 years prior, that actually that was the beginning of the end, because the perception was that one person was deeply troubled by it and the other person didn't seem to care. So Going through experiences that are challenging, it just sort of depends on how people handle it, whether it's an opportunity to really pull together and be a team, or whether it divides them. It's not the experience itself, it's what they do with it.
What about a slightly different version of that scenario where instead of it being a couple that is a couple and then comes and does a hike together and then goes back off trail and as a couple, what about a couple that meets on a hike? Like you meet day 1 of your hike or day 20, whatever day it might be, and you're in this vacuum with the other person. And so you don't have to focus on any of the actual tough parts of life in the real world. You're just focusing on the fun of every day, and you're getting to know this person without any of that stress.
Sounds like having an affair.
Right, sure. But then you get off trail, and then now you've got to deal with each other in the real world.
Yeah.
How do you, if you are in that scenario, how do you best set yourself up in this vacuum to survive when you leave it?
Well, I would think again, I haven't never done that, but what I would say is that the way you just described that scenario, if people understood that was a possibility, and it is, because in a way it's an artificial situation. You're focused on each other. You don't have the daily kinds of issues that you have to be dealing with. It's intense. Everybody's, on the same path, so to speak. And then you're in the real world, and you may not live in the same area. You may have different interests once you get off the trail. You may have different aspirations. One of you may get depressed, or both of you may get depressed. Knowing that can happen, and then making a decision about how much you really want to be together. I think any sort of issue that arises can be worked through if the commitment is there and that it's important enough to do so. It's clear to me that getting off the trail after you've been in this artificial situation could present challenges, but it doesn't have to be a challenge that's a deal breaker.
You mentioned having the conversations before the partner goes to trail is so important to set expectations. In this situation, what kind of conversations could people have before the trail ends, like the couple that meets on trail? Mm-hmm. What kind of conversations could they have before they get to that finish line to set them up for success when they both enter the real world again?
Good question.
Thanks, Zach.
What'd you say?
It's a good question.
He gave me a weird compliment.
Right. Well, but to set them up for success is really what you want to know.
Like they want to make sure that this works after the trail, but they're worried about all the different things that'll play in. Mm-hmm. What conversations can they have in that last 100 miles?
So one of the things I do when I've been working with people and doing some follow-up with them and things are really going well, when I start to realize that they have been accomplishing the goal they set out to accomplish, I often ask people, what would be the very first sign to both of you that maybe things were getting off track or not going well, or you're sliding back to where you were before? And I have them identify potential challenges, potential signs that things are slipping. And it's so useful to do that, because then I say, okay, and if that happens, what are you going to do about it? How will you handle it so that you stay on track? Being able to project into the future about potential things that might pop up, and then having a plan, is the best way to preempt those issues from really taking you down. So just assume that there will be challenges and plan for them.
That makes sense.
I'm going to skip down to the bottom because I really like this question and I want to make sure that we get to it. This is from Snazzy. You don't have this one though.
Oh, I thought you said
one of the most difficult parts of a through hike, and maybe this is similar to the previous question, I guess we'll see. One of the most difficult parts of a through hike for my wife and I is the time away from each other. But once we get over that and the trail is finished, the next hardest thing for both of us is just getting used to being around each other again. We both have basically lived separate lives for the past few months and have become used to our own routines, and now we're stuck with each other again. Any tips for making that transition back to normal married life any easier?
So I'll say two things. The first is, people always think about the what ifs, like, what if we really have a hard time reconnecting because we're so used to doing our own thing, and how will we meld our lives again? Well, I think that's a good thing to be thinking about, because as I was saying, yeah, planning for that is a great thing. But if you're going to ask yourself what ifs, why not ask, what if our being apart makes us so excited about being together and really sharing how our lives have how we've been enriched by our separate journeys? Like, why not think about that as well? People tend to worry about dire outcome as opposed to thinking about what could be really great about the time we've had apart and when we get back together again. That said, I also know that, for example, for many years I worked in a small town, as you know, Woodstock, Illinois, outside of Chicago. Yeah, well, you were there. And it was close enough to O'Hare to be considered like a pilot's ghetto. So a lot of the people in my practice were pilots and their spouses. Now think about a pilot's schedule. They're gone for quite a few days, captain of the ship, and then they come back. And the spouse, often a woman, not always, but often a woman, captain of her own ship, taking care of the kids, doing things the way she wants to do it. It was job security for me, because when they got back together again, it was who's boss and how are we going to get. I have my schedule, and now you come in and you screw things up. What I think, when people really have a hard time with dealing with merging their lives, it isn't about not loving each other enough. It isn't about not caring about the other person's feelings. It really is about a skill deficit. It's being able to have conversations about, first, to anticipate that this is going to be a thing, but also being able to say, I know that you like things in this sort of way, but while you've been gone, we've been doing it this way. And I think I'd really like for you to adjust to the way we've been doing it, because it seems to be working for me. And just relationships are a work in progress. And as long as you have the desire and the interest and the motivation to negotiate and renegotiate and being clear about it, rather than being resentful and going underground with your feelings, you can work it out.
Do you want to go for picking favorites? Because I've got a couple that I've liked. I just saw it and then I just lost it. Where is it?
Are the IG messages ones to your personal account?
No.
Oh, because some of these are kind of funny.
Yeah, you ask one while I find the one that I was just looking at. Oh, wait, no, I found it.
Okay.
Okay. So this one's from Anonymous. I'm considering a through hike during a career break. My husband doesn't have the same time off work, so I would be hiking without him. He's very supportive of my hiking plans, but I worry about what it will do to our marriage if I have this transformational experience without him. Any advice on managing this? And I think that one's great, because it's like, what do you do if the person that comes back home isn't the person that left? Because very rarely, I think, you are the same after you do something that, like they're saying, is so transformative.
I get it, and this is going to be mirroring what I said just before a little bit. I think the person asking the question probably has some questions already about maybe growing at different rates or having different interests, because again, why not anticipate that your life, you are transformed. Your internal landscape is totally different. I mean, I certainly saw that with Zach, totally. It's sort of like, I've also listened to astronauts, because in Boulder and CU, they come and they do talks, and, landing on the moon or being up in space and then coming back down, you can't really explain what that experience is like unless you've had it yourself. So I totally get that. So two parts to that. One is you have to be able to find peace within yourself that this is the existential dilemma. Like, we are separate beings, and you may have this intense experience that your partner will never understand, but that's not a bad thing. Also, you can share whatever you can through our limited language to bring excitement and enthusiasm and newness to the relationship. So why not think about that as a possibility? And here's the flip side of this. Isn't it also possible that that spouse that you left behind has transformed his or her life in other ways too? That they've learned perhaps for the first time how much fun it is to be alone, that they've made new friends, or they've started new hobbies. They may not be the same person as well. I'm sure I've never done long distance hiking. I am a hiker, but not a long distance hiker. I'm sure there's something incredibly magical that you can't put into words, that people who haven't done it will never understand. But that's also the nature of being in relationships. Unless you are, you're glued to the other person's hip, you are going to have experiences in life that your partner isn't. And use it as an opportunity to connect rather than divide.
Yeah, this is something that I was mindful of when I was gone for long periods on the PCT, obviously with Jenna, is, my life is wild, crazy. Like, I'm having these very novel experiences. And then every few days we get the opportunity to connect over the phone. And my instinct is to pick up the phone and start talking about all of these things and forgetting that the other person at home is living a life too. Like, just projecting all of the amazing experience you've had without checking in to see, like, oh yeah, how is your day going?
Yeah.
And like that's not a feeling that I have most of my life, but like when you're out doing this, like you use the analogy of going to the moon, it feels like you're going out to the moon and you just kind of want to fire hose that information to your partner.
Right.
But yeah, you have to be mindful that they're living a life too, and
right.
you have to check in with that.
So the analogy that I think about, back in the day, I used to be on the road a lot doing seminars, and they were fun. I mean, I had lots of friends, and you do these presentations, and then you hook up with other presenters, and you have a really great time. And Dad was home with you guys, and part of me wanted to say, and then I did this, and then I did that, and we had but I was always mindful about the fact that he was home with you guys, and I didn't think it would go over all that well, and so I curbed it.
You had to conceal your enthusiasm?
Yeah,
curb your enthusiasm, I guess.
I curbed
You missed an opportunity there.
Right,
Damn it.
You're right. Yeah, so but also, asking, how was the parent-teacher conference, and being able to stay tuned into that it's super important, and not to be too enthusiastic, especially if the person on the other end of the phone isn't like catching the vibe.
Yeah.
Some fun ones?
Yeah.
Pick one.
I don't know if there's a real answer to this, but Anne made me chuckle. Anne Beal asks, why can't I stand hearing my husband chew?
It sounds like she needs to go on a long distance hike.
I do like this one because, there's only so many different ways you can cover this kind of version of the question, but Darius Fleck asks, how do I deal with the guilt of leaving a spouse at home while I'm hiking a happy forest ferry?
Hiking a happy.
Yeah. So the person who's out living the dream,
yeah,
how should which their mindset be? Because, there is that sense of guilt that I'm getting to do this incredible thing while the other person is dealing with real life.
I think that if they've gotten their partner's blessing, at least like, let's say, 80% of the time, I think you have to be mindful that if you are going to allow yourself to feel guilty, and I think you have a choice about where you allow yourself to go with that, then don't hike, because you're ruining the experience. It's a lose-lose. And so if you make the choice to go and you get mostly your partner's blessing, then it's really important to work on yourself during those moments when guilt arises, to be in the moment and bring yourself back and, smell the trees and the air around you.
I like this one because it goes back to what we just talked about what happens when someone transforms. And this one, Arrow83 Vol asks, do we outgrow people and stagnate our own growth, or is this a misconception?
Well, it's the thing I usually hear about. I need a divorce because we've grown apart and we're so different now. I really do think that if you're going to be married for a long period of time, you divorce and remarry that same person many, many times over the course of the years that you're together, because everybody grows, everybody changes. You don't change when you're dead. And hopefully you grow in ways that are fun and grow together. But if not, the one thing I've noticed about couples who are really happy is that when they notice that they're leading parallel but separate lives, they're intentional about finding things they can do together that give them both joy. It doesn't have to spring from an urge to do a particular activity, but it comes from the intention of creating times that are meaningful for both of you, and whether it's starting a new hobby or doing something, you do it. It's a choice. It's don't expect it always to happen organically. It's a choice. I remember when Zach and his sister were really young, and I was busy with work, and his dad was busy with work. I remember his dad said to me, I want to take up golf, and I want you to learn how to play golf so that we have this thing that we could do together. The last thing I ever thought I would want to learn or would learn or did learn is golf. But we did. We played twice a week together. And it wasn't something I would have chosen independently, but we were intentional about making that time.
See, but that's the part of that confuses me is how do you, I feel like when I hear that, I think about the person who asks, how do I get my partner? There's a couple of these. How do I get my partner to want to take part in this activity? I want to share it with them. How do I get them to want to do it? Mm-hmm. And it sounds like in your case, you were really open and receptive to trying this new thing. Mm-hmm. What happens when the person's not? You pick something different?
You either pick something different, yeah, or, again, this is such a big part of just accepting who you've chosen and focusing on the things you love about them. And if they're not willing to do that, then find something else that you can do together that you both enjoy. But acceptance is super important. I'm a major extrovert, and my husband is an introvert. If he had his way, he'd live in a hut in mountains without any people around him. And my soul gets filled. I mean, I like being alone, but I also really, really enjoy being with my friends and family. Those are hugely different needs. Now I forgot what I would say. What did you ask me?
Pick a different hobby, or how do you deal with? Because you were receptive. Other people aren't.
Yeah. Acceptance. That's what it was. At first, when I noticed that there were these huge differences between being an extrovert and a real introvert, I really thought there was something incredibly wrong with him. Like he was, his growth was stunted emotionally. And I'm sure he felt like the same about me. I'm positive. But over time, I realized that there is no right or wrong way to be in the world, that most of the time when I work with couples, they spend so much time arguing about what's right or what's wrong. Being on the trail is good, being on the trail is bad, when it's almost always a case of two rights. And the key is in both acceptance and figuring out what to do given the differences. And spending your life wishing someone were the way they aren't is a formula for unhappiness.
Yeah.
How much of a good relationship is, like, quote unquote, meeting your soulmate or like the perfect person, and how much of it is working toward a good relationship? You're asking the wrong person, because I don't believe in soulmates.
I really think that, which isn't to say that there can't be magic when you meet someone. I think that a lot of times the magic has a lot to do with pheromones, but an attraction and all those good things, and of course things that you have in common. But ultimately, I believe that people who really do have good, healthy, solid, long-term relationships, everybody has to work on it. Everybody does. And I think people leave marriages because of this mythical thinking that they're going to find somebody who's their soulmate. And I just don't believe in it.
I had one on the top of my head, and then it just left me. Okay, echoing off of that, do you think, like, coming from it of the mindset of let's not look at divorce, let's look at how to fix it, do you think anyone could make a relationship work with anyone? Or do you think that there has to be, like, a base level of things that line up for it to have potential to work? And what are the most important things, if so, that need to be
So
lined
it's
up?
interesting because in my practice, I work with a lot of people from all over the world, and I've worked with a lot of Indian couples, and you probably know that they're arranged marriages. A lot of times they barely know each other, let alone feel physical attraction or have things that they have in common. And the divorce rate is lower. Now, you might say, well, maybe that's because in their culture it's not okay to divorce. But I think in our culture, when people meet, it's sort of like it starts off with fireworks. And then maybe it simmers down a little bit. In other sorts of cultures, where there are arranged marriages like that, it starts off probably pretty cold and just kind of simmers for a while. And it becomes a matter, in the couples who are successful, it becomes a matter of loving each other over time. So do I think anybody could make it work? I think a lot of it, again, goes back to what's your goal? You know, what do you want to have happen? How motivated are you to make that happen? Is it easier if you find somebody who has, enjoys doing the same things that you do? Probably in some ways it's easier, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be work.
Yeah, okay.
We'll end with it, unless you've got a lot more that you want to work through.
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Thank you to LMNT, our title sponsor. This is the Stay Salty question presented by LMNT. Use our URL, drinklmnt.com/trek. Obviously tweak the question here for our guests, but what is your hottest take, maybe unpopular opinion in the world of relationships? This like unconventional wisdom that you believe in. You mentioned the soulmate thing, so can't use that, but something maybe that you think about relationships in general that if we brought in one of your colleagues would disagree with you on.
Okay, I'll do. I first I thought about one that had to do with sex, and then I thought, well, let me think of another one.
Thank God.
I'm here for it. Let's talk about sex in front of your son.
Right.
She's written books on the subject, so
well, and
there was
a
no
TEDx
shortage of it.
talk on that as well.
Yeah.
The other one, I think most people who have had therapy experiences know that no matter what they're talking about, their therapist is going to say, but how do you feel about that? Let's talk about how you feel about that. That's their mantra over and over and over. And I think the worst possible advice you could give to a newlywed couple is always express your feelings. That is a formula for disaster. I think in healthy, loving, long-term relationships, you have to be able to decipher between things that are super important to you, that are sort of bottom line things, and choose your battles and let the small things slide. And that means that if you don't like the way your spouse loads the dishwasher or does these sort of small things, that probably there are times to just sort of let it slide, being clear about what you absolutely need to make this relationship work. So that's one thing.
She keeps looking at me because that's one I've messed up a lot.
Which is what?
I've gotten better at letting the small things slide.
Oh, yeah.
But it took some learning.
I'm still working on that. I have very high expectations.
And I think also there's such an emphasis on people just sharing their feelings all the time. And I think people need to ask themselves, what's your goal in what you're about to say? So when I'm working with couples and they talk about these rough times that they're having and how they handle it the same crappy way over and over and over again without ever questioning, could I do something else? I always say to them, listen, the next time you find yourself in that tough situation, stop for a moment and ask yourself, what is my goal here? What do I want to have happen? Is what I'm about to do or say going to bring me closer to my goal, or is it going to push me further away? And if the answer is further away, I don't care how smart you are, I don't care how right you are, do not do it. Do something else instead. Now, this flies in the face of a lot of my colleagues who really truly believe that if you have a feeling, you should identify your feeling and you should always express it, because that's being authentic. And toward what end? Toward what end? Because so often you shoot yourself in the foot by saying things that I mean, if I were to say to you, are there situations where if you wanted, you're going along with your boyfriend, Fiance, what's his name?
Garrett.
Are there situations where you're spending the evening with Garrett and things are going well, and if for some perverted reason you wanted to make things go downhill, could you think of something you could say or do?
Easily.
Easily, right? And everybody always says, oh yeah, easily. Well, guess what? The same is true in reverse, that if you can think of what you could say or do to make things better, or to have a good moment together. People always say you can't control other people, you can't control the outcome. Is simply not true, because you could make things get worse, you can make things get better. You just have to be more solution-minded in what you know will work, what you know won't work, and really trying to be a little bit more creative in your response. And that's not a typical therapist response.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Stuck the landing. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Mom, thank you very much for
son.
doing this. If there was somebody, there's obviously a very common theme with the questions that we got.
Yeah.
Is there one of your books that you'd recommend someone check out if they were in one of these common circumstances?
Probably the book that I'm most well known for was the book that Divorce Busting, because it really explains the principles underlying relationships that work and the principles that don't work, and whether people are even if they're not married and even if they're not at the brink of divorce. I've had so many people say to me, everybody before getting into a committed relationship should read this book, because it really is sort of the playbook in how to get it right. So,
is there a way to introduce a book like that without setting off major alarms? Because I feel like if you're in a marriage and both people, like someone thinks it's good and you're like, hey, we should read this book called Divorce Busting, like I'm having an internal panic attack.
It's funny, a lot of my books have very whatever kind of titles, like scary titles, and I've often thought I should have.
You want to give some examples?
Yeah, sure. The Sex-Starved Marriage, The Sex-Starved Wife. I don't know, but
that's good enough.
Yeah, lots of times people have said they've had my book on airplanes, but they dare not take them out and read them because of the titles. And I think I need to make, or maybe Zach, you can do this with one of your the people who work with you, but make sort of a brown paper bag cover for my books. Yeah, yes. I guess you'd have to just tell them can't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, you got to make a hardcover that's just got like a brown sleeve jacket.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I did see on Jenna's nightstand, I think shortly after we had the twins, How to Not Hate Your Husband After Having Kids.
Shut up.
No.
I
didn't write that one.
Yeah, no, you didn't. Yeah, well, Mother Davis, thank you so much.
Yeah,
what else should people know? Like, do you want to plug your website if people wanted to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, if people want to get in touch with me for hiking reasons or otherwise, I mean, advice about that. I guess the best way, two ways. One is my main website is divorcebusting.com. And if they want to just shoot me an email because they have a question that we didn't talk about today, Michele@divorcebusting.com. I'd be happy to answer it.
Michele with one L.
One L.
Yeah, with one L. And actually, I actually have the other email address.
Oh, just in case.
Thanks to you.
Oh, really?
So,
That's clever.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks for inviting me. I figured you probably ran out of people to interview. So
No, we've been talking about this for a while.
Okay.
I've been asking for years.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Chaunce. It's so great meeting you in
You
person,
too.
Yeah.
To the Trek propaganda portion of today's show, hate that I'm doing this. Would not like this to be the case, but here we are. Renee Shira Patrick, who you've heard on the podcast twice before, was recently diagnosed with cancer after a series of persistent injuries turned out to be symptoms of a much more serious condition. While visiting family for the holidays, she underwent emergency surgery to stabilize her spine, and initial scans revealed lesions in her lungs, brain, spine, rib, and hip. A fundraiser has been launched recently to ensure she and her partner, Kirk, have the support they need, including emotionally, logistically, and financially. This GoFundMe has been launched to help, obviously, with their medical expenses, travel for the treatment, and home adjustments to make her recovery as comfortable as possible. Renee is both an amazing figure in the hiking community. You can hear about all the work that she's done over the past years. That's episodes 44 and 207. But she's also just one of the sweetest people that I've ever met. And honestly, this demolished my heart when I saw this update. So if you have the means and you were inspired by Renee's stories from past podcasts, please head to the link in the show notes to donate to the GoFundMe. Every bit of support that she gets is helpful, and I just want her to know that the hiking community is rallying behind her. And so far, that's the case. I think they're close to their goal, but I'm assuming they set the goal pretty conservatively. She's not the type to ask for more than is necessary, so I'd like to blow it out of the water because it sounds like a pretty tough fight that she'll be going through. So again, any support we can give her is very appreciated. Let's do an article to buffer between the more silly things that we're about to get into here. This one is The Ultimate Guide to Making Coffee on Trail by JT Simmons. I think this is JT's either first or second featured post, so new contributor for us. Shout out JT. But I'm going to try to find something here that maybe is not common sense. By the way, this post is very in-depth. I think the word count on this one was like 3,000 words, so he's got a lot to say about coffee, and he goes through some of the more popular products like the AeroPress and whatnot. Actually, I'll just leave it at that. If you want to learn about making the perfect cup of coffee on trail, head to the link in the show notes because I don't want to spoil this one, but it is very well done. Okay. Question of the day. This one's me. This one's recent, but I do like that Rachel is now giving attributes to where these come from because we're always like, I think this was you, and it's always wrong. The question of the day is, we need a word for that sweet, relieving feeling after you take a big dump.
Yeah, I'm sure different languages probably do have a word.
The way that like Eskimos have 30 different words for snow.
Right.
Like more poop-centric cultures have a word for this feeling. Yeah. Without going totally TMI, but I've had a few of these this week where like they were emergency poops. And I know it seems like I play that up because I think that poop stories are the best, and I do. But I think I took a souvenir home with me from Mexico, and I'm in the post-diarrheal phases, which is now I'm not just spraying liquid, but when they come on, I don't have much time.
Right.
So when you get rid of it, it's definitely like it's a percentage of an orgasm, really, if you think about it. It feels really good. And like it lingers with you for a period of time after it's left your body. It's not like you just poop and then you feel better. It's like you poop and then you have to like smoke a cigarette to really contemplate what you just went through. Yeah. Do you guys have any thoughts on?
We're on opposite ends of the spectrum this week. I've taken 4 laxatives this week.
Oh, okay. I wish we could meet the midpoint.
I know. I was on the bathroom floor in fetal position the other night. I was worried I was going to wake Garrett up because nothing was happening, and it was becoming so painful inside from like things needing to happen and not happening that I was just laying there like loudly moaning. Oof. Which I guess you could make another sex comparison there, but it got to the point where I was like, do I go to ER?
Yikes.
And just tell them like, hi, I can't poop. So
were you able to squeeze one out eventually?
Yeah, and I pooped before this too.
All right.
Things are finally moving. Right. So it is a relieving feeling.
Finally moving, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Poophoria.
That's a good one. Shitastic. That's really lame.
Yeah, but it got me to laugh. So
Yeah, but were you laughing at me or with me?
with you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I feel shitastic.
It was at a kindergartner's level, but
Yeah.
that's all it takes for me.
I feel... what other words would there be? Doo-doo-rific.
Yeah. Yeah, all right.
Okay.
You're really stuck on the iffics and the...
Atastic, an ific.
That's fair. I've used the phrase, I really oomphed that one, because it's kind of the sound that you make while you're doing it.
Yeah, like
I
an
hate that.
onomatopoeia of shit. I love that.
Like, that was an oompher.
Yeah.
Garrett spends... We have a running joke that the bathroom is Garrett's favorite room in the house. So
Yeah.
whenever his mom is like, when we're at their house, and she's like, "Where's Garrett?" I say he's in his favorite room in the house, and she just knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's a safe space.
Yeah.
You're by yourself, probably just checking out the best memes on whatever insert social media platform.
The other night he went to go pee. I was like, "I dare you to leave your phone here." Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Yeah.
It's like, aren't you standing up and one of your hands is busy anyway?
Scrolling memes, doing an oompher, and just having a great time. It's a safe space.
Okay.
Poop is kind of an onomatopoeia itself.
Yeah.
It could both be the sound of the poop leaving your body or just like the perfect nosedive splash.
And it's one of those words where spelled backwards, it's still spelled forwards.
Yeah, what is
Palindrome?
Yeah.
Is that what that
I
is?
think that's what it is.
Look at us.
Okay, this is keeping on topic for Valentine's Day themes. This is the Triple Crown of petty things you fought over, and this is a special one because I get to referee your fights, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, at first I was going to leave Garrett in the other room. He's here because we have dinner plans after this in Golden, but I went to him to get input on what my answers should be, and his reactions were probably more energetic than my telling would be.
Sure.
So I figured it's doing the people an injustice to leave him in that room during this.
Cool. I'll start because
Sure.
I want to hear back-to-back of yours, but these are truly very petty. I'll start with, I think, the obvious one for probably every parent couple goes through this is whose turn is it to deal with the poopy diaper? And we recently got rid of the changing table in the downstairs because our twins climb everything and it was just becoming a hazard. So now to change a diaper, you either have to like bend over, which is the worst thing in the world for me. Anything on the ground I hate. I don't like doing the laundry because I have to bend over to do it. Anything that is bending over is too much effort. You'll understand once you get closer to 40. So either you have to change a diaper on the ground, which I loathe, or you carry a very large, almost toddler up the stairs to change their diaper. And it just becomes a whole fucking process because they shit frequently. So it's always like, I changed the last one. We do the nose goes thing, but it's always a thing. It's never just like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't say never. Most of the time, we're cool enough to do that. But there will come a time where we're both at our limit, and we just have to decide in a very Socratic way who gets to change that shitty diaper. It's usually me.
Yeah, that's happened. That started happening with us with Harper for when she has... she'll force herself to puke sometimes, and it's just bile when she's like, I want more food, or you haven't fed me soon enough.
Yeah.
And so we take turns, but it usually is the I did it last conversation. Or it turns, this is petty of me, it turns into, I thought you said she was your dog too. Because Garrett's really big on she's my dog too.
It's
so
the
I'm
one
like,
time she admits it's my dog too.
Yeah,
Otherwise, she's like, no, she's my dog. Until something needs to get done,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, she's
I thought she
yours
was your
too.
dog too.
You got to pick a lane.
Which, yeah, we can add that in the whole
Yeah.
conversation for this.
The poop diapers will be an issue of contention for us, but I've got a great theory on it. I don't know. I think I've told you this. If I haven't, here's some news. I think if I should have to physically wreck myself and carry the thing for 9 months, Garrett should have to exclusively change the diapers for 9 months.
Oh, you have not pitched this idea to
Oh,
me.
I've pitched it to several
I
other
thought you were
people.
going to say it's not that bad when it's like our own kids.
No. I think
It's
if
like, you know like that theory where it's like it's not that bad when it's your poop, but then when you
Yeah.
walk into a bathroom and it smells and it's not yours, it's
Yeah.
way worse.
Yeah.
If I'm
So-
going through 9 months of bodily change, emotional upset and physical vag to butthole tearing.
Which is
You
not
should
like a thing
change-
that like is going guaranteed to happen. It's a possibility.
More
Not to
likely than not.
downplay the
likely than
miracle of childbirth.
I think the least you could do is 9 months of diapers.
9 months of diapers.
9 months of carrying it.
We'll talk.
Okay.
I will say in the early weeks, Garrett will be signing up to do a disproportionate amount of it because you'll be immobilized.
I just don't know why I should have to tap in back that soon. I just did 9 months of work.
Yeah. Well, just logistically speaking, if one person's going back to work, they won't be around to physically change all the diapers.
We both work from home.
So you're like banging them down during a meeting. You're like, we have a situation back here.
Yeah, hang up the phone, bud.
Nice. All right, good.
Yeah, so that's maybe an upcoming one for us. Okay. The biggest, let's see. Okay, here's another one. I don't want to do too many Harpers in a row.
It's funny, in like 3 years, all of your Harper fights will just be replace that with kids, and then like times 10.
The
Squared.
trash. I refuse to take the trash from the house to the back alley to the garbage cans for a number of reasons. One, call me whatever you want for thinking of this. It's a boy job. 2, there's a homeless guy that sleeps behind our trash cans.
We saw a guy one time.
Doesn't matter. We see there's a blanket on a mattress out there.
People are
What are
throwing
the
out
odds
the mattress.
that Chaunce is planting that as evidence as to why
Big.
she...
Big time.
The guy was a felon. He had just gotten out of jail. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not going out there
Well,
by
how'd you get
myself.
his background?
Because he wouldn't stop talking to us while looking into the garage behind us. You
We
want me
brought him
out there by
pants.
myself?
It sounds
doing
like
that?
a crisis actor.
So
to
what
me.
I do is I stack the trash bags next to the back door so that Garrett can see them. And I thought I was doing a great thing by doing that because I'm putting them as far as I can, feasibly make myself put them. And I'm not being like, Garrett, take out the trash. Garrett, take out the trash. I'm just putting them there. And when he sees them and he feels like it, he could do
And
it.
when you put them there, what are you saying?
Garrett thinks I'm being very passive aggressive by putting them there because I'm telling him to put them in the trash without asking him to do it.
And
Do you want me to nag?
to say, hey, can you take out the trash today?
Okay.
Boom.
So fine.
You're
That's what
doing
we'll
like
do.
20% of a step, and then you're...
I wish my mom was here for this.
Yeah.
Well, she likes to do this thing sometimes where she's like, we need to do this.
Well, you're not supposed to say you because you is a very argumentative thing.
it's
So you're
very
supposed to try to
clear.
avoid you words.
But then she gets mad when those things don't get done, and it's not because they can't get done. It's just because she's just waiting for me to do it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So
Would you prefer that she just asks you outright
yes.
as opposed to like,
hey,
giving-
today at this time, can you do this? Like, we just had a dresser in our room that we needed to move to the garage, and she was just like waiting for me to do it when I couldn't do it by myself. And
I
you
was
know-
gonna do it with you, but you were busy, and then it was cold, and then you had hockey, and then you were out of town.
So why were you mad that it didn't get done if there are reasons why it didn't?
Because there were plenty of times in between.
When? and what? You could have helped me then. You could have let's do it right now. And that never happened.
Anyway,
how much of your reluctance to take out the trash is because of the your friend in the alley versus that just being a boy job?
it's a mix.
Okay.
So basically, we concluded this petty fight with me being like, "Look, I'll just flat out say it. I'm never gonna do this."
Which is what I need to hear. I just need you to just
I
tell
was
me.
like, "I'll just call a spade a spade. This will never be something I do. So accept it or don't. The trash is staying here."
Because I was
Hey.
always under the impression that if you're just walking it to there, why can't you just do the job of going outside and just going and taking it there?
It just doesn't feel right.
Okay. at least we know we're past this mental block.
Yeah. So that's fun.
That's funny.
Walking up the hill at Chuck's wedding when I flipped out because you didn't wait for me.
Oh, you get so mad out of nowhere. We're walking, and I'm like, okay, cool. And so I'm like literally maybe a step ahead
It's
of
a
her.
grass hill. I was in heels.
We
I thought
have
he would
been-
have waited for me and taken my hand and walked with me and made sure I could get up the hill okay.
And I had been doing that kind of stuff all day after a day of drinking. I'm a groomsman in this wedding. So at this point, like, I'm a little bit inebriated. And I made one mistake. And it's like all the nice things I'd done that day no longer mattered.
How intoxicated was Juliana?
Oh, I mean, that definitely is
No, I was
attributing
sober.
fa-
Were you?
What?
This was before the ceremony.
No, this is after the ceremony, before the welcome, or before the after party. We went. This is like after the reception ended.
Oh, yeah, maybe pretty inebriated.
Yeah.
I thought there was still. Well, I guess the sun sets late at night.
It was
in the
dark.
summer.
It was after the. It was
I
after.
thought there was daylight.
I mean, there was just the natural glow of the beauty of smiles and friendship, but that
My
was
brain
about-
remembers sun.
Oh no, it was dark. See, so you were inebriated because
Yeah, I
you
guess
remember
so.
sun. It's just. I guess it's what you see when you look at
Maybe
me.
it happened twice. So that was one. That was a big one.
Yeah. So who's at fault there?
Garrett, because if your girlfriend is at a wedding of your friends and there is a grass hill she's got to walk up and she's in heels to look good
We're talking about a
as your
slope
date,
here.
hold her hand and make sure she's walking up it. Don't just walk all the way up the hill by yourself and leave me at my own pace because you want to go get to your buzz.
I totally agree that I should have done it, but I just didn't understand the rage, the immediate rage, as opposed to like, hey, hold my hand. It was
Yeah.
a you dick. I
Yeah.
hate you.
How long did the animosity linger?
Couple hours.
Oh, a few hours till the next morning.
Yeah.
I ended up going to the after party alone.
Well, I didn't want to ruin it for him. I didn't want to ruin the day for him,
Yeah.
but I just was like, I'm not in the place of mind where I want to be pleasant or
So
nice
you
to
just
be
went
around
home?
right now, so I'm going to go to sleep.
That's usually the reaction she has
Yeah.
whenever we have a little spat.
I was like, you go to the after party. If I go, you're going to have a horrible time because I'm not over this. I'm going to go to bed. I'll see you in the morning.
That's fun.
So,
Good. This is helpful. I'm going to go with... I've talked about this a lot on the podcast before, but I guess this is another boy duty is breaking down the boxes.
yeah, that falls under trash. I'm not doing it.
That was the trash she left out. Was the
Yeah.
breaking down the boxes.
Well, so your concern about having to travel outdoors to do something is not a thing because the boxes just get thrown at like out the garage door and it's just like I have to come and deal with the box. And there's layers to how much this can annoy me. I've since just accepted the fact that I am in charge of boxes even though this was never discussed. But the one that is the worst is like, especially during the holidays, where you throw out a box that still has like wrapping paper and plastic. Like this hasn't even been sorted through yet. You're literally just throwing unkempt trash into the garage for me to then sort into the trash, break down, and to do that multiple times is always just like, yeah, that's the ultimate.
I mean, it's definitely a thing. I mean, whenever any trash receptacle or any like box or any bag
Fill with
suddenly
other things.
becomes another trash bag to Juliana. So I actually am unable to break down most boxes because those boxes, like if you have a box, I'm going to put all the other trash we have in that box to save room in the trash can so we don't have to take the trash out. But then that box just gets put by the door, and then it's like, I don't know what to do from
You have to
this
get a
point.
new trash bag for the box trash.
No, I don't do. Like, I'm not going to waste time there. It is full of tissues and cans at this point.
Okay.
You're a sneezy gal.
So I'll show you what I sent him last night. I don't know if you've checked your TikTok yet, but I sent him this last night. You could
Yeah.
get this for Jenna for Valentine's Day. It is a box cutter. It looks fun to use.
Oh, you did send this to me.
Yeah. So just cuts them all
Yeah,
up.
yeah, it does look like a pizza cutter.
You don't have to break it down.
We have the more traditional box cutter, and fuck, that thing is dangerous.
I mean,
'Cause-
this one's
I'm
electric.
not allowed on planes for a reason.
Yeah, for good reason.
It's a small blade. But
Yeah, but like they're so fucking sharp. There've been a million times where like I'm slicing through boxes and almost like chop through my leg because it moves way faster through the cardboard than you can ever expect. Something like that makes more sense because like it looks like you don't have to use as much physical force to
Yeah.
get the momentum.
I do
But
like.
it's
like, the thumb
basically like a
switch.
mini circle saw. Like it looks dangerous.
Yeah. But I mean, the blade, I'm sure, is way more dangerous. But because you're not having to, it's kind of like the thought process between like sharper knives are safer than duller knives because they cut more efficiently. I think something like that would probably be better. So yeah, breaking down boxes. It's not even a fight anymore. It used to be a fight. It's now just like, yeah, I guess this is me. And the last one is, I'm sure this is probably a me thing, but so we have a specific cabinet where both the pots and pans go, and they have like roll-out drawers in that cabinet. And she didn't know until like it boiled over inside of me, but she would constantly put the pans on one side and then the pots on that side. Like, you never knew when you were opening up what was going to be in the drawer. And finally it just spilled over. I'm like, this is the pan drawer. This is the pot drawer. Like, why do I have to guess every time I open this cabinet as to what I'm going to be finding in it? I did, like, that was me being sleep deprived and being an asshole. I apologized, but yeah, that was my blow up. So it's now I have a label printer at home for all the all the Trek.
We're definitely going to be printer label people.
Yeah.
But I've labeled the pan drawer and the pot drawer, and since I've done that, there have been no mix-ups.
Perfect.
It's clearly labeled as to where the pans and where the pots go.
I like that one. I've got a lot of honorable mentions, but the one I'll go with third.
They're all food related, aren't they?
No. When we're in bed and I call Harper to come lay down with me and she goes to him and lays on him instead and then just
You
looks
get mad
at
at
me.
him?
Yeah.
What is
Because
he
he'll like
supposed to do?
put his arm around her. I'm like, don't encourage that.
No.
Let her come to me.
Most of the time, I
Like,
don't
it's
do
all
anything.
smug and shit.
Yeah, because she loves me. But it's like,
Scared dog too.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
In
like-
that moment, it certainly is. And he's like, oh, she likes me better. I'm like, I'm gonna kill you.
She gets mad because I smile. I don't do anything because she's like, Harper,
You
come
get
here.
this look on your face.
Yeah,
It's just
of
like,
just joy. But
Yeah.
she's like, Harper, come here, and she points at her, and then Harper will like slowly walk towards her, and then just turn and climb on top of me, and then I put my arm around her because I'm not like, Harper, come here, you know. Like,
What
I'm
is he
not-
supposed to do? Neglect the dog?
Yeah.
That
it's
adorable
to be
dog?
like, no, your mom called you. Go to her
She knows and I say that
She made her
sometimes, and then
choice.
she climbs on me more.
every night.
So she just knows that I give the best head scratches, and I don't know.
Now he's trying to bait me. I'm not gonna fall for it.
If you love her, you gotta let her go.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe I don't want my dog. Did you do 3?
Yeah.
You started? Yeah. Okay. You have honorable mentions?
No, I was
Wow.
surprised that you did because you were stuck
Really?
on 2 for such a long
Yeah,
time.
but then we got on a roll.
It was like you
I
getting
mean, this is her
unconstipated.
specialty, is these petty little.
So we were-
It's
we
never
both-
on my side.
We both work from home. Well, that also makes me mad. Is that like nothing? There's no way Garrett doesn't get mad about things, but I don't want to get shit for vocalizing when something upsets me. I think it's a good thing to be like, hey, this thing bothered me, instead of letting it boil up. But then he gets mad because it's always me saying that I'm upset about things and never him. And I'm like, well, that's just because you bottle it up.
Does
That's
he
not
get
a pro.
moody because he's
I
stuffing
get
stuff down?
I don't get moody because I stuff things down because I think I've got like a big space back there just to like just put stuff. But I get more mad because a lot of the stuff that she gets mad at me for, she is actually either doing at that exact moment to me, or she's like, she does it to me frequently, and then I do it once to her, and she's like, that's not cool. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. So we
yeah.
can jump into my honorable mentions. We'll rapid fire them. I get mad at him when I'm running late.
What?
It literally happened today. I was downstairs like by the door, and then she was like running 5 minutes behind, which turns out was 30 minutes early. But she was like, "What are you doing? We have to go." I'm like, "I've been down here with my shoes on, ready to
Yeah,
go."
but I had come downstairs. Sure, he had been downstairs, but I opened the front door and was ready to walk out it. He was still talking to our housemate.
So the solution is that I just need to sit outside and wait, as opposed
wait
to
in the
sitting
car.
by the
You
door.
should have been ready the second
should have
that you were
opened
ready to
the
go.
door.
Yeah, understood.
I know this now.
Not having towels. This one I mentioned when we walked in, but this one is a very big pet peeve of mine because
Is he in charge of the laundry too?
Garrett takes
I'm in charge of everything.
no. Garrett takes like 2 showers a day.
Well, if I play hockey too, but usually just one.
But at least one.
Yeah.
I shower much more infrequently.
Mm-hmm.
And so what drives me cuckoo bananas is I don't shower often. So on the occasions I do, I would like to have 2 towels. One for my body, one for my hair. But because Garrett showers so often, I'll have the day where I go to shower and there's no fucking towels left because they're all in the wash. And I'm like, can we just name 2 towels my towels and you never touch them? And I
You've
thought,
never raised that as a solution.
yes, I have.
I was just thinking about that as a solution.
I said the white towels would be mine, and all the other ones could be yours, and we would just leave those. And you said,
But
okay.
one of those white ones is my favorite one. It's like the fluffy one.
That's not what you said then. You said, okay. But then what happened when I went to shower the other day?
Well, as a guy who is a frequent showerer, I'm a clean
How
boy.
many do you need?
Well, because like over the course of a week, I'll take anywhere from, I guess, 8 to 14 showers, and within
I'll
that,
take one.
Yeah.
I just want 2
yeah,
towels.
she takes one.
Yeah.
So obviously, and I'll usually have like for like a 3-day period, I'll only use like 1 towel. But then after those 3 days, it's like, okay, I can't continue to use this towel like 5 times.
We have like 20 towels.
Yeah, but then like not all of them get washed at the same time. We just gotta like just do a big load. And
We need a
resolve
washer
this.
dryer on the same floor as our
Yeah, we
bedroom.
do. I used to have that. It was great.
Yeah. So that's one.
I think the earmarked towels make sense. Like, this is my
I
towel.
thought that was a great solution.
You've never raised that.
Yes,
by the way.
we
This
had
is
a
a
conversation
dream. This is
about
a
that.
dream.
Okay, well, say goodbye to your favorite towel. Because
I
that's
like that one though.
Sorry.
Okay.
Garrett doesn't like snacks. He's not a snacker. And this is like the classic, everyone argues about this. When I want to have a sweet treat and he's not interested in it, I'm like, I don't want to just eat a sweet treat by myself. I want you to share in on this sweet treat with me. So I'll get upset about that because then I'm like, well, then I can't get one.
I'm not a sweets guy.
So are you talking about like going out to a convenience store and getting
No,
something?
like she's like, I want to have like
Let's order milkshakes.
Yeah,
I don't want one.
milkshakes. I've actually really been down.
Yeah, lately you have been.
I like me a milkshake.
Or I don't know, like anything where it's like, do you want to?
Are you saying like you have snacks in the house and like you want to have a piece of chocolate?
When
but
she's
you
got
don't eat it?
snacks on
I will
deck.
snack in the privacy of my own home to my
Okay.
content.
Okay.
But if it's like, let's stop at somewhere on the way home and get like a little snack, no. Let's get cookies, no. Let's get, like he just doesn't like snacks.
Well, you know why it is? It's because this beautiful woman right here, she is a serial not finish anything
grazer.
person.
Yeah.
She's a grazer. Like I gave this bottle of water to her 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And we are not even halfway, and I've taken 2 sips out of it.
Yeah.
So, like when we get if we were to go get a milkshake, and yeah, like obviously I'm going to be paying for these milkshakes. Instead of me paying, because I can't just get a milkshake for her, because like she said, she's going to be upset that I'm not indulging in this with her. So what ends up happening is I end up spending both. I'll enjoy the milkshake. She'll probably get halfway, and that seems like a waste to me.
Yeah.
So that is
So your
sometimes
preferred
why.
solution is like you just get one and I'll just drink whatever you
But
don't
that's
want.
not on the table because she won't do that.
You've never said let's share one.
We don't really like a lot of the same flavors.
That's true.
So it's not a solution then.
It's not. I didn't float it as a solution. That's why I'm like, let's just not get it because we just spent money on dinner. So why now go just basically buy 2 milkshakes to get 1 to not enjoy the same level as you would, and 2 throw out the other bit.
I'm on Garrett's side. That one.
This is like the towels.
Yeah.
These are 10 for 10 at King Supers.
My favorite drink.
We'll
Yeah.
get 10. We'll come home. I'll go to have one 3 days later. There's none left. I'm like, all I want is one. One will last me all week.
Yeah.
And then he gets upset because I don't drink it fast enough. And I'm like, you have 9.
Early bird gets the worm. You got to
You
start.
drink 9.
Well, they lose the carbonation, and I'm like, it's basically a waste. I guess I'm against like waste. You know what I mean? Especially for things that I could have enjoyed. So I'm like, I gave her one of these when I had one. It was gone in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
We're 3 days later.
But
here.
how is it wasted if I'm still drinking it?
As long as I'm not that.
not in the
I'm really
trash.
not that upset about
I know.
it. It's just like, dang, I could have enjoyed that
I'm
2 days
currently
ago.
enjoying it.
You're enjoying it like a snail.
But I'm still enjoying
That's
it.
fair. I guess it just makes me irrationally.
We both work from home. So when I come downstairs around lunch and I'm like, opening his office door saying, hey, what do you want to get for lunch? And I see a full-on DoorDash on his desk. And I'm like,
He got something without checking in.
you didn't
with
want
you.
to see if I wanted anything? What if
Yeah.
I was hungry? I'm currently hungry. Looks like you're great.
But what if he was at like a 10 out of 10 hungry and you were in the middle of a meeting? What is he supposed to do?
Text me.
God gets me.
Send me a text. Hey, do you want DoorDash?
Well, I think it also goes
Cover your
back.
bases.
It goes back to the same thing as like the sweet treats. Is like then I'm spending twice as much, and I guess when we're married it'll change. Then I'm spending twice as much for you to eat half of whatever you order on DoorDash.
But then the next time I could get the DoorDash.
Yeah, but we all know that I get like 90% of these DoorDashes.
That's because you can't cook at home.
And in the last week, it's a slightly different example because I was actually like okay because I knew I was being able to get away with it because I was ordering food that I knew that you couldn't eat because you just got your wisdom teeth out.
You shouldn't be viewing it as getting away with it.
It's not getting away with it. It's like I'm scot-free, baby.
Like, that's the mindset
She
you're in it.
cannot get mad at me because she does. This is like her bread and butter. She can't get mad at me because I didn't do anything wrong here. She can't eat this. She's a smoothie gal this week.
Okay, yeah. So piggyback off this one. This will be the last one I give. I got my wisdom teeth out, and so I couldn't eat anything but like soft liquids for a while, and then I could start eating like certain hard foods if they could be compartmentalized in where I chewed them in my mouth.
Okay.
So French fries were safe because I could nibble them and chew them in the front and swallow them. So Garrett ordered us milkshakes from somewhere, and he got like a burger and some fries. And
This was pre-wisdom teeth.
no,
Oh, yeah.
No, I
Oh,
was eating them
yeah.
because of my wisdom teeth.
This was like the week of you getting yours. This is prior to the wisdom teeth. You were eating them because you are a serial fry snatcher. You're a frequent, I don't want fries.
I asked for one French fry, and he lost his shit.
No. I said you can have one. And
Oh,
then
and
I
then
see
and
her
then-
going on her 6th and 7th
No,
fry.
it was 2 or 3.
Oh, it was more than 2 or 3. Because Shake Shack.
got
I was
really-
starving,
he
and
got
I had just
really-
gone shopping with her. Where I'm sitting in the dude chair in all these stores, just scrolling my phone while she's picking it out and giving my opinion after she goes in the waiting room. It's like 8:00. G's hungry, and I'm like, Shake Shack sounds delightful. She's like, I just want a milkshake. I say, okay, oh, and a grilled cheese because you got a grilled cheese.
Oh, yeah, and it didn't come with fries.
I got her a milkshake and 2 grilled cheeses.
I did ask for 2 grilled cheeses.
Because it was Harper's birthday, so we do know that it was before your wisdom teeth.
That's correct. It was Harper's birthday. I got a grilled
And so
cheese
she's
for
like,
Harper
I'm
and
gonna
a grilled
give the
cheese
grilled-
for
Garrett's
me.
winning all of these arguments
And
right now.
so
I
then-
did give the other grilled cheese
You
to
did,
Harper, though.
you did, but I was like,
Harper
but I was
grilled
like,
cheese
It was her
and cake.
birthday.
Oh yeah, fair.
but I was like, Juliana's is gonna have this milkshake and this grilled cheese. She's gonna have half of this milkshake and then hopefully this whole grilled cheese. I'm starving. The Shake Shack fries are not a large quantity of fries. Got the cheese sauce on the side. I'm pumped about it. She says, can I have one fry? I go, yeah, sure, but you know how hungry I am. Just make sure not to have too many.
Make sure not to eat all of them.
You had 6 or 7, and then you were like, why are you so mad? I'm like, because there's like 20 fries in the whole thing. And like, you're not even using the cheese
I didn't
sauce.
get any fries.
I asked if you wanted fries. You said no.
Because if I got fries and then I was full off my grilled cheese, you would have thought I was wasteful.
That's fair. But at the same time, I know I'm devouring those fries as soon as I get home.
He was yelling at me by fry 2.
I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, okay, that's 2
literally,
fries.
Literally, what are you doing?
And
I was like, eating a second French fry? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, well, did you ask for 2? I'm like, okay, and
I'm like, geez, I didn't realize I had to ask every single time. I thought we were about to get married.
Have
What's
you
yours
ever-
is mine. What's mine's ours.
yeah, but not when I'm that hungry, which I do get hangry. But you ever seen like on the menu, they have it at some places where it's like the my girlfriend's not hungry meal.
No,
I'm a firm believer that every restaurant should have that, where it's like a smaller version, and it's like the my girlfriend didn't want fries order.
Yeah.
And it's like 6 fries.
Yeah.
That could have easily resolved the situation. So I think every place should like have it, because once the food's on my plate, I'm one of those guys. I'm not like a big food sharer, because if I
He won't split a meal with me at a place, and that drives me bananas.
I don't like that either.
if
I
I
want
like it,
to.
I want it.
Right.
I want to eat it.
Yeah.
And like if I'm hungry, like also like whenever we get like a shareable pasta bowl, I like see her taking some, and I'm like, that could have been mine.
Yeah,
And, like,
we'll
I'm
go
hungry.
to Angelo's and we'll each get a pasta dish, and I'll like take a little taste of his. He's welcome to take a taste of mine. He's gonna finish my leftovers anyway. And he just looks at me like I just murdered someone. He's like, "Wow, you just touched my plate."
That's a big thing for us. Is like she is the leftovers queen. So like. And she never eats the leftovers out of the fridge. So like once a month we have to go through and dig out leftovers.
You
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
eat you don't eat the leftovers out of the fridge.
I rarely
either.
have leftovers.
When we cook together, they are our leftovers.
Yeah, when we cook together, I actually do eat a lot of those. I'm talking about when we go to a restaurant, that take-home box, what's the point? What's the point of the take-home box anymore?
The leftovers I had from Christian's birthday lasted me 3 meals.
Yeah, I just gotten your wisdom teeth out. But there's like a million other examples where once that box goes in the fridge, we're seeing it in a month with like some crust on it.
Yeah, I've got to throw out a poke bowl. It's gone bad.
A poke bowl? That's like a 2-day maybe thing.
I know, that's why I haven't
Yeah,
eaten
poke's
it.
got a
Has
short shelf
to.
life.
You're a rascal.
So anyway, those are petty things I get mad about. Thanks, Garrett.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you just got to aim for what she's going to have left over as when you're ordering food, and just know that you got to devour it too. Eventually it turns into kids, and like your kids, you cook a full meal for them and then they eat 5% of it, and you have the same mindset of like, I don't want to waste this. So you're eating like bits of grilled cheese or cottage cheese or whatever it might be. Yeah, you just become a vacuum.
Yeah, so I guess whenever you have a meal anymore, it's not like there's the frequent saying, hey, eat your meal. There's hungry kids in Africa. Just always think there's a hungry Garrett in Colorado who would absolutely demolish this.
Yeah.
So
Good.
appreciate you taking my input here.
Yeah, thanks.
That was good. That was fun.
You can go back to your room.
Maybe your mom should have stayed.
She would have gotten good entertainment out of that, as did I. Mailbag.
Okay. Rachel's research. This flyer from the Should I read this first or second? I guess first.
Um,
Second. Second.
yeah.
Okay, second. Hi, I love the podcast. I have a question that I have only been able to find mixed answers for online. Maybe you can help. If you carry pepper spray while backpacking on the AT, specifically for protection against other people, not animals, should it go in your bear bag overnight? Does it have a scent? Will it attract wildlife? Furthermore, if it goes in your bear bag overnight, doesn't that partly diminish the purpose of carrying it with you in the first place? When I was the vice president of the outing club at college, I told aspiring backpackers that if you carry something with you to protect you against other humans, you yourself might end up being perceived as a threat by other hikers at camp. I'm a pretty big dude, though. I can understand why a woman who has never backpacked before would feel the need to protect themselves on their first trip. Please let me know your thoughts. Again, you guys are great. Connor. I have thoughts. I think specifically, before we get Rachel's research, you're mentioning the AT. I would not be concerned about needing to put it in a bear bag on the AT. I would be concerned about that on like the on the Teton Crest Trail where there's grizzlies.
Yeah.
That would be where I'd be like. But then again, bear spray is basically the same thing but more, right? And you keep that with you.
I don't know what. I can't imagine it's the same thing. Maybe it is. I have no idea. I actually don't know the answer to that.
But Connor, I can tell you that I carried pepper spray on the entire AT, and that I slept with it usually in my hand or within hand's reach, and I never had a bear problem. Not to say that me not having a bear problem doesn't mean anyone would never have a bear problem, but for the AT specifically, I think if a bear is going to come to camp, there's at least 8 other reasons that it would before your bear spray or before your pepper spray being the reason.
So my very brief research corroborates what Rachel has here. She cites a flyer from the Alaska Department of Fish and Wildlife, states that pepper spray does not work like insect repellent. If you spray it first, then the scent may attract a bear or other animals, which leads me to assume that the unsprayed canister of pepper spray does not actually have much of a scent. They also say to have it remain accessible at night. So that answers that question. And yes, I just threw it to ChatGPT, and it corroborates that it doesn't actually have it doesn't have a scent. It's not detectable by both humans and animals.
Yeah.
The active ingredient, oleoresin capsicum, is contained under pressure and does not emit any noticeable odors unless it leaks. So you shouldn't have to worry about it having a smell.
Yeah, I've carried pepper spray on every hike I've done, and it has always been within arm's reach sleeping. The grizzly territory was the bear spray versus pepper spray, but the Colorado Trail I had pepper spray, the AT I had pepper spray, everywhere I've had pepper spray, and I absolutely sleep with it.
Yeah. I wonder if because like bear spray is a one and done deal. Like once you've discharged it, you don't get to use it again. But like with pepper spray, can you use it multiple times?
I don't know why you should. Like, if you have had to use it once, I imagine you'll leave your finger on the button to like make it most effective. But at that point, like, they're only like $10. Get a new one.
Yeah.
Rather than be like, wow, what if I need this again? And I go to spray it and it's like the end of a canister of whipped cream.
Yeah.
You know, like I would rather have the peace of mind and spend $10.
This says you can use pepper spray multiple times, but you obviously want to be cognizant of how much was discharged and the pressure release and yada, yada, yada. Good question, because I don't think it's immediately obvious, but yeah, it seems like that is the convergence of the answer. 5-star review. This is from Randall James Ross. Just what I needed. Hey, Zach and Chaunce, I spent most of my life vacationing in national parks. I've been fortunate enough to visit 49 states and hiked a lot in many. The last 30 years, I lived in San Diego and enjoyed the local mountains and Sierras more than I could imagine. We used to camp at Kitchen Creek, Mount Laguna, Big Bear, Idlewild, and other places along the PCT in the Sierra, and people in my group always asked what the extra cooler was for, all the hot dogs, beer, etc. I always wanted to have a supply if the timing was right for PCT hikers to cross our path. We had some fun chats around the campfire. As the economy would have it, we had to relocate to the east and to a flat as a pancake state. We've been here almost a year, and it's not been an easy adjustment. Less expensive, yes. Inspiring, no. I was reading more books on Thru-Hiking, and due to my long commute, started looking for podcasts. Backpacker Radio is keeping me sane right now, listening to the banter, the overall enthusiasm of those who have done a thru-hike, and even the trail correspondents and their list of apprehensions allows me to relive the moments I've spent on trails over the years. I'm only on episode 12, got a long way to go, but looking presumably forward to all the variety to come. Keep up the great work. If you haven't read George Spearing's book on the PCT, give it a try. 6 stars. If I was to leave a podcast review, cheers. And Zach, did you hike the AT? And Chaunce, how did you keep that much chocolate from melting? Randy?
Put it in the middle of your food bag. Did
you ever deal with melty chocolate?
Yeah.
Even in the middle of the bag?
Yeah. Like if you're hiking the desert section of the PCT, then anything like that, you're gonna have to actually be more conscious of what you're packing, and then you choose things like peanut M&Ms that for some reason don't melt. But if you're hiking like a normal trail that's not super super hot, I find the center of the food bag, especially in a bear can, is like almost insulated in a way.
Yeah.
The only thing to be aware of when you're putting it in the center is where your food bag is in your pack. Mm-hmm. For example, if my food bag is at the very top of my pack and I've got like a day or two left, it can be in the middle, but it's still probably going to melt because it's at the top. So maybe I'll put my food bag below my tent, or I'll change up the order so the chocolate's not where the sun hits.
Yeah.
Or where the heat of your body hits.
I've had many a Snicker bar that like you just unwrap and it just looks like a fresh dookie.
Yeah.
And it's very sad. You still eat it.
Yeah.
But dealing with the trash gets very messy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a depressing thing. Or like when chocolate melts in the trail mix.
Yeah.
And then it just all kind of globs together.
You gotta wait for it to re-solidify.
Yeah. Thank you to Randy. If you guys want to hear your reviews read on this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us any number of stars.
Just not 1, 2, 3, or 4.
I like how that has become your responsibility. I
Well,
think
you
that
pause. You
I know,
ate.
No, I know. It is your responsibility.
Okay.
That's a girl job.
That's a girl job. Fine. I'll take it.
Shout out to today's title sponsor, LMNT. I don't know what else there is to say about this company, but I drink at least one, I'm not exaggerating, every single day.
Yeah.
I'm about to crack into my second for the day because I did have a little bit of sauna time earlier today. But yeah, when you're out on the trail, electrolytes are very important. I've experienced hyponatremia on the AT. Let me tell you, it sucks. You don't want it. Element is the best. I'm a big fan of the citrus, grapefruit. Those are my go-tos.
I think I love that I go through flavor favorites because there are times where I'm like, I am diehard. Remember when I was diehard watermelon?
Yeah.
And now I'm diehard grapefruit and the raspberry. I haven't gotten raspberry recently, but the raspberry really hits. And whenever I'm really into one of them, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to like another one more than this one. And then just time passes and I'm like, oh, this other flavor's so good though. The citrus, ooh, yum. So I think that it's nice that even after all this time, I still haven't gotten sick of the flavors. I've just rotated my new favorites.
Yeah. So highly recommend you have electrolytes when you're out on trail or just in life in general. Mm-hmm. And if you want a free sample pack with any order at Element, go to drinklmnt.com/trek and you will get that free sample pack. Thank you to our Chuck Norris Award winners on Patreon. That is Alex and Misty with Navigators Crafting, Alex Kindle, Andrew, Austin McDaniel, Brad and Blair from 13 Adventures, Brent Stenberg, Brian Allsop,
Hey, boss.
Christopher Marshburn, Coach from Marion Outdoors, Derek Cook, Eric Casper,
The Friendly Ghost.
Eric Hoffman, Ethan Harwell. That's a new one, right?
No, we saw that one, and it was in the group chat. You commented on it. But it is new.
New to the podcast.
New to this. We have not read it yet.
We need a hook.
You know what's funny is you said that too in the text, and I thought of something, but then I didn't say it, and now I don't remember what it was.
Well done.
What does that mean?
Like well done.
Oh.
Jillian Daniels, Greg Knight, Greg Martin, Greg McDaniel,
Neighboring Hard with him.
Griffin Haywood, You Bring Me a Bear, Haley Buckingham,
Dallas.
Mud Tom, Patrick C. Cialo, Rebecca Brave, Sawyer Products, Spam, Timothy Hahn,
Solo.
and Tracy Trigger. Thanks to Paulie, our guy, editor, and go to his website to get the most delicious beans that exist, ommcr.com. They're roasting those beautiful coffee beans. Follow us on. So what's happening with TikTok? I know we've been talking about this forever.
It's been extended.
Okay.
I don't know if you can download the app if you don't already have it, but if you have it, it still works. So we're still doing things there.
We're still doing it. At Backpacker Radio on Instagram and TikTok, at BackpackerPod at X, Facebook.com/Backpacker Radio. You can follow Chaunce.
You can find me on Instagram at Juliana_Chauncey. I have been really good about posting my hiking videos on YouTube. The Ozark Highlands Trail is done. The Foothills Trail is fully edited and going out weekly. And I'm in the middle of editing the Teton Crest Trail, so I've really been on a roll. And very on theme with the episode today, if you have a significant other, family member, parent, or someone at home who is worried about you taking on a hike, might I recommend my book, Hiking from Home, a long-distance hiking guide for family and friends. It breaks it down by type of person we're dealing with and how you can be great for them and how they can be great for you. And it demystifies the whole experience and kind of explains everything in a way that is super easy to understand. So you can get that on Amazon.
Appalachian Trials. My mom read it, and Pacific Crest Trials. Chaunce and I would both be very grateful for a review on Amazon. Follow us on YouTube.
Hi, Internet.
What's up, YouTube? That's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. Happy Valentine's Day and happy hiking.
Bye.